The story begins by introducing us to our protagonist named Leon. He tells us that he was an ordinary university student. One day, his dog disconnected the alarm cable, causing him to oversleep. While rushing to get to class, he had a car accident and ended up meeting St. Peter. However, when he opened his eyes again, he realized he was in his world, but in an apocalyptic version. Returning to the present, L notices how some individuals were fighting against a massive mutant. Despite all their efforts, the creature regenerated as if nothing had happened. Leon tells us that, at first, he believed he was the chosen one, and that he would gain a superpower or a system like in the anime, but he soon discovered he was completely wrong. The first time, he was bitten to death by zombies while trying to lead survivors to a safe place. When he opened his eyes again, he realized he had returned to the original point in time. In his second life, he starved to death. In the third, he disguised himself as a zombie to gather supplies, but the military ended up killing him. In the fourth, he was betrayed by a companion and died. In this way, he lost his life in all sorts of ways. And this was already his 10th attempt. Already tired, he had lost hope of living. Returning to the individuals, we see that they gave up and fled from the creature, abandoning one of their comrades in the process. The girl, with tears in her eyes, begged, "Please, save me, Tito Leon." Knowing that no matter what happened, he would be reborn, Leon decided that at least before dying, he would do something. He ferociously advanced against the imposing creature and cut one of its tentacles precisely where the girl was. Seeing this heroic act, the girl thanked him with all her heart. Without time for conversation, Leon shouted for her to get out of there and quickly headed to a nearby convenience store he spotted in the distance. Once there, he ate and drank as if there were no tomorrow. On the other hand, the people, seeing him enraged, prepared to eliminate him. But just as they were about to do so, Leon felt a sharp headache and fainted. When he opened his eyes again, he noticed the creature had disappeared, and as if that weren't enough, he was perfectly fine. Suddenly, a voice spoke to him and congratulated him for activating the apocalypse system. The voice introduced itself as Jin. Hearing this, Leon became extremely happy. His eyes filled with tears as he hugged Jin tightly, shouting that if Jin didn't explain why it took so long, he would report him. Jin asked him to calm down and mentioned that the delay was due to a small accident. As unbelievable as it seemed, his roommate had stolen the charging cable. Leon couldn't believe it, but preferred to accept it since it was better late than never. Curious, he asked what he would gain. Jin said he would explain, but first needed to state his objective. As Leon had already seen, he was in an apocalyptic world, and his mission was to save it. If he completed the mission, he would return to his original world. If he failed, he would be eliminated. But not to worry, he had 10 lives, although, according to Jin, he only had 1 left. However, Jin assured him that with his help, that would be more than enough. Without further delay, Jin activated Leon's power. 3 Doritos later, we see Leon on the street with a small food stall. His first mission was to earn 50 crystals by selling snacks. Tito Leon, of course, was not happy about this at all and angrily shouted at Jin, questioning why the savior needed to set up a street food stall. Because of the commotion, he ended up attracting the attention of zombies and, terrified, ran as if there were no tomorrow. Jin, curious, asked why Leon was doing that. Leon knew he was right and that he should have a superpower. So curious, he asked what it was. Jin showed his stats, and Leon was greatly surprised. They were terrible. Because of this, he was almost caught by the zombies. Scared, he ran as if there were no tomorrow, screaming at Jin that he was a cursed liar for saying he had given him a superpower. Jin replied, "Of course you have a superpower, and it's precisely that street stall." He warned Leon not to lose it, or else everything would be lost. Hearing this, Leon quickly returned, believing the stall must have some hidden power. He picked up a pipe that was on the ground and began attacking the zombies. However, one of them abruptly pushed him to the ground. Fortunately, Leon fell into the street stall and, already desperate, began looking for something useful, but found nothing. He noticed several zombies approaching ferociously, until suddenly he realized that a piece of fabric had saved Tito Leon, when at the street post, is protected from any attack, whether by monsters or humans. In other words, nothing can hurt him. Excited by the news that he is invincible, Leon begins to dance. However, Dinan warns him not to get too carried away, explaining that the post can only block 3 attacks per day. Moreover, if the mission is not completed within the time limit, the blocking function will fail. Jin urges Leon to hurry, as night is falling and the monsters will become more dangerous. Leon understands, but questions how on earth he is supposed to sell anything if there's no one around. Suddenly, Leon spots 3 individuals approaching quickly in the distance. He sets up the post and invites them to take a look at the products. The men are fascinated by the food Leon is selling. Showing his skills as a salesman, Leon makes an amazing offer. For only 50 crystals, they can take everything there. Upon hearing this, the men burst into laughter, mocking the fact that Leon is asking for money. They mention that they are in a good mood, and if Leon leaves immediately, they will spare his life. Realizing they don't have any money, Tito Leon takes his products back. This irritates the men, who believe Leon doesn't understand the situation, and decide to eliminate him without further delay. One of them fires a shot, but the attack is blocked by the shield, which ricochets the bullet, causing the weapon to explode and the shooter to faint. The other 2 are shocked, thinking Leon has superpowers. The bald man says this is impossible, as he's never seen anything so strange. He also claims that Leon looks like an idiot. The men demand that Leon explain what trick he used. Showing confidence, Tito Leon warns them to lower their tone because they are speaking to the chosen one who will save the world. However, because he is generous, he will forgive them as long as they spend 50 crystals buying his products. Naturally, the men don't believe him and become even more furious, thinking Leon is treating them like fools. Enraged, they decide to finish Leon off. However, as soon as one of them attempts to attack him, the shield activates again, blocking the attack and breaking all the fingers of the aggressor's hand. The man who had fainted wakes up, and together with the bald man, yells at their other companion to eliminate Leon. Tito Leon knows that if that man attacks with full force, the situation will get really complicated since the 3 blocks have already been used. Trying to act tough, Leon finds himself in trouble. The blond man, overcome with fear, flees because he doesn't want to meet St. Peter. His companions run after him. Leon realizes he escaped by a hair. Suddenly, he notices that the men had left behind a bag. As he is about to open it, he realizes something inside it is moving and suspects it might be an animal. He carefully opens the bag, and to his surprise, a beautiful girl comes out. Tito Leon is mesmerized by her beauty, but she, upon noticing his presence, fiercely charges at him. To his shock, the girl is a zombie. Desperate, Leon starts running as fast as he can, but she is incredibly fast. He begins throwing objects at her in an attempt to fend her off, but nothing works. Just as he thinks it's the end for him, the zombie stops, fascinated by a piece of dried octopus he had thrown. Leon realizes she is hungry. Trying to calm her down, he gives her more food. Unfortunately for him, the octopus runs out, so he gives her some potato chips. To his surprise, she likes them too. Gradually, he approaches a lava-filled cliff. Once close enough, Leon throws the bag of chips far away towards the lava. The hungry zombie runs after the bag, trying to grab it. Leon feels bad about this, but knows he has no choice. It was her or him. While recovering from the scare, he notices a high-quality dagger on the ground, left behind by the men. Upon picking it up, he sees it bears the emblem of the Legion of Thunder. He is shocked because he knows this is a very dangerous group led by a powerful, awakened individual. Leon understands that if they catch him, he'll be in serious trouble. He quickly starts gathering his belongings to leave, but he notices that in the bag where the zombie was, there is a pouch full of crystals. Leon is overjoyed as this is more than enough to complete the mission. Jin, however, warns him, saying that since the crystals were found and not obtained through a sale, they could not be counted as income for the street station, Leon questioned. Jin argued that the zombie had eaten at the station and that the crystals were in her bag, so they should count. Jin admitted he had a bit of a point, but insisted that the rules didn't allow it. Frustrated, Leon threw a big tantrum, saying that monsters should also count as customers if he wanted to thrive in business. With no other options, Jin ended up giving in. With the mission complete, the street station leveled up, transforming into a food cart. When Leon approached the new cart, he saw there were new products and, curious, asked Jin what had happened to the vehicles and weapons. Jin explained, had it was a food station, not an arsenal, and that he could use the points earned to buy products or improve his attributes. Lian knew this was bad because the station could only protect him 3 times a day, and he couldn't keep hiding all the time. The most important thing now was to improve his self-protection ability. He asked Jin to use the points to enhance his attributes. Jin agreed and increased his strength, but Lian was disappointed as he didn't notice any immediate difference. Jin then informed him that the next mission was to obtain 100 crystals in sales and hire a waiter within 24 hours. Lian was furious, thinking the time was too short. Moreover, where would he find an employee at this moment? A flyer fell onto his face, and when he picked it up, he realized it was from the girl at the cafe near the university. He wondered if she was still alive, and motivated by the possibility of working with such beauty, decided to go look for her. On the other hand, we see that the zombie waifu was still alive, and searching for the protagonist everywhere. The next morning, we see that Lian finally arrives at the cafe. As soon as he opens the door, he comes across a bunch of zombies. Scared, he starts running, and of course the creatures chase after him. One of them almost catches him, but luckily, the cart saves him. Furious, Lian curses his ancestors because now only 2 defense blocks remained. The zombie, still alive, begins crawling on all 4s and furiously charges at Lian. Perceiving the danger and nervous, he lands a powerful hit that throws her against a vending machine. Due to the strong impact, the zombie falls, crushing the other zombies in the process. Surprised, Lian realizes that the improvement in his strength was impressive. Jin then informs him that, by defeating his first zombie, he earned a disposable raincoat. When Lian sees it, he feels disappointed. Jin stops him from underestimating the item, explaining that it's advanced technology. The raincoat not only blocks water, but also insulates heat and protects against harmful substances like radiation. However, it can only be used once. Suddenly, Lian spots a massive horde of zombies in the distance. He realizes that the noise from the vending machine attracted them and understands he's in a dead-end alley. Just when he thought it was the end for him, the girl from the cafe calls out to him from afar. Without thinking twice, Lian runs toward her, narrowly escaping the massive horde. Once safe, Lian thanks the girl from the bottom of his heart. He knew she was a good person. Perplexed, she asks if he knows her. Lian replies, of course, that he's a university student who used to visit her cafe a lot. Realizing he was one of her precious customers, the girl becomes radiant. Without hesitation, she introduces herself as Kanan, and Lian introduces himself as well. Suddenly, a noise from the back catches Lian's attention, and he notices a mysterious door. As he approaches to open it, Kanan screams that she saw some rats, and scared, asks him to get rid of them. On the other side of the mysterious room, someone was hiding. Returning to Lian, we see him holding Kanan firmly as she almost falls to the ground. Concerned, he asks what's going on. She explains that she's been stuck in that place for days and hasn't eaten anything, so she's very weak. Lian tells her not to worry and to wait a moment while he prepares a delicious meal for her. While he grabs the products, Kanan assumes a serious expression and murmurs to herself that all that food will be hers. She's surprised to see the large quantity of food and becomes euphoric, thinking she's found a big fish. However, upon grabbing an egg, she notices it mysteriously disappears. Confused, Kanan soon discovers that no one can steal from Lian. Annoyed, she thinks, in what she will do next. First, she plans to eliminate that fool, but when she goes to grab her dagger, she realizes it has also disappeared. At that moment, Lian questions her while holding the dagger. Are you looking for this? Kanan is not surprised to see him with the weapon. She realizes he took it while she was pretending to fall. Curious, Tito Lian asks if he can use the dagger, explaining that he doesn't have another one to cut the ingredients. Kanan, trying not to raise suspicion, says it's fine and asks him not to misunderstand her. She justifies that as a weak girl, she needs something to protect herself, and that he can return it as soon as he finishes. Lian, already done, replies, of course, and promises to return the dagger. But she asks him to be careful, as the dagger is very sharp. Nevertheless, Kanan, now with the dagger in hand, puts her plan into action and says that Lian will die for being so naive. However, to her bad luck, her attack is blocked by the cart. Surprised, Kanan realizes he has some kind of superpower. She composes herself seriously and prepares one of her powerful fire kicks. Leon, even though he seems like a fool and distrusts everyone, has always been alert. He quickly neutralizes her using pepper spray. Like a good watchdog, he starts sprinkling salt on her while shouting for the others to leave the room. Otherwise, he threatens to finish off their companion. Suddenly, two little ones leave the room, screaming for him to let go of their boss and claiming they're not afraid of him, promising to defeat him for hurting her. Obviously, the result is a total disaster. Leon comments that if no one educates them, they will become criminals when they grow up. Kanan, as best as she can, gets up and yells at him not to hurt the children, saying that if he's going to attack someone, he should come straight at her. Tito Leon agrees and, without delay, throws the little ones at her. 3 minutes later, we see that he has tied up all three of them, and comments that it seems many people have already fallen into her trap. Kanan, confident, says she had never failed before, but, curious, asks how he noticed the trick. Leon replies that only fools would fall for such an obvious trap. He explains that since he arrived, he noticed several packages and empty cans on the floor, even though she claimed she hadn't eaten in 5 days. Moreover, there was a fresh blood stain, but she had no visible wounds. It was obvious they had attacked other people. A boy named Canned shouts that those people deserved it for trying to take advantage of their boss. On the other hand, a girl named Yuna mentions that they never hurt good people, only the bad ones like Leon. This makes the protagonist feel bad because he doesn't consider himself a bad person. Kanan comments that in the apocalypse, it's hard to blame anyone for trying to survive. Tito Leon agrees, but says that now that they're in his hands, he also can't be blamed for what he's going to do to them. He threatens, saying it's been a long time since he's eaten fresh meat. The two little ones begin to cry, believing they're about to be devoured. Obviously, it was a lie. Leon just wanted to scare them. Kanan asks him to let them go, saying he can eat her instead of them. Kang and Yuna refuse to abandon her, saying he should eat them and free their boss. Witnessing such loyalty, Tito Leon starts to feel a bit bad. Suddenly, Yuna begins to cough. Kanan begs Leon to release her, explaining that she's hurt and the ropes are making it hard for her to breathe. Leon shouts, asking if she thinks he's stupid, suspecting that as soon as he releases her, she'll try to attack him. He is impressed with the girl's acting talent. Even so, the little ones insist they're not lying and beg him to free her quickly, or Yuna might die. Still hesitant, Tito Leon asks Jin to assess the girl. Jin agrees and after finishing informs that the child has a severe infection and, if not treated immediately, she has at most 3 days to live. Suddenly, Yuna starts gasping. Without delay, Leon frees them and watches as the girl collapses. Sometime later, we see that they've replaced her dressings. Tito Leon was furious because someone had hurt her, wondering what kind of monster would harm a child. Kanan explains that it was the Thunder Legion and begins to recount what happened. She reports that upon realizing something strange was happening outside, she immediately closed her coffee shop, even with customers still inside. Hours later, they learned about the zombie outbreak while the government asked everyone not to leave their homes. At first, they obeyed, and everything seemed fine. But as soon as the food began to run out, the true nature of humanity was revealed, where a man stole food from. Little Yuna, with the excuse that she was small, was given only a little food, and she told her mother, named Laura, that she didn't care if she agreed or not. Kanga, seeing this, bit the man to make him give the food back to her little sister. Obviously, it didn't work, and only enraged the man, who was about to teach her a lesson. However, Yura, realizing what was happening, knocked him to the ground with a kick, picked up Kanga in her arms, and shouted to everyone that there was enough food, questioning why they should take it from others. The angry man yelled that a simple piece of bread wasn't food. Gufu replied that she didn't care if he went hungry and that, as far as she knew, she didn't owe him anything, adding that if he didn't like it, he could leave and find food on his own. But, being a coward, he was afraid to leave and face the zombies. This, of course, only irritated the man further. Suddenly, an elderly woman and a couple asked her to give them more food, promising to pay double when everything was over. She mentioned that it was a cafe, not a store, so there was nothing stored. A girl screamed that she was lying and demanded that she open that room to see what was inside. Aifu said there were only clothes, but they didn't believe her and demanded she open the door, As they had seen, she always kept it locked. Yura asked everyone to calm down, reminding them that the boss had been very kind to them, but they didn't care and grabbed her tightly. Meanwhile, the man forced his way into the room, and when he finally managed to open it, he found a bunch of dresses. Suddenly, a car crashed into the shop, and several men descended from it, introducing themselves as the Thunder Legion and shouting to everyone that if they didn't hand over the food immediately, they would eliminate them. The leader, Rato, told them that the woman knew where the food was. Upon seeing the many beautiful girls, they planned to take them. Kei and Yura ran with the children. On the other hand, it was revealed that the woman's boyfriend had betrayed them to stay alive. One of the men caught up with Kei, but she quickly fended him off with her dagger. Enraged, he was about to kill her, but without hesitation, little Yuna, seeing her older sister in danger, stepped in and took the shot herself. Everyone was shocked by this. Meanwhile, the leader of the rats scolded his subordinate, saying the noise would attract zombies while ordering the others to eliminate everyone and take the supplies. One by one, they began eliminating the survivors, leaving only Vifu and the children. When they were about to kill them, Yura threw herself at the man, preventing him from firing. She pleaded with Gufu to take care of the children. Gufu nodded, held them tightly, and escaped through the window. Yura knew they would follow her, so she took a grenade, and seconds later blew up the entire place. Returning to the present, Gufu fell into a sea of tears, devastated that she couldn't protect Juna. The girl, who had just awakened, asked her boss not to cry and said that if she died, she would reunite with her mother. They begged her not to say such things. Jin, witnessing the scene, commented on how sad it was. Leon yelled at him to shut up, reminding him that moments ago he was nearly killed. Even so, he added, he wasn't a monster, and if he could help a child, he would. Curious, he asked Jin if there was any medicine that could save her. Jin replied that there was, but it would require leveling up the street post. However, there was another option. The second function of the food post allowed meals prepared by the owner to have therapeutic effects. The effectiveness, however, depended on the skill level of the owner. The better their cooking, the better the results. With that in mind, Tito Leon entered Master Chef mode. 3 Doritos later, he prepared a delicious waffle and asked Yuna to eat it. She sincerely thanked her older brother. As soon as she took a bite, she said it was delicious. Moments later, she told her brother and the boss that she was already feeling much better. Ifu touched her forehead and was surprised to find her fever had gone down, suspecting it must be because of the dish. Perplexed, she asked what it was. Tito Leon said he couldn't tell. Even though Yuna was much better, she still needed to eat more to recover completely, and that waffle had only been a gift. Next time, she would need to pay for it. Vifu said there was no problem, offering all the food she had. Tito Leon replied that he already had plenty of food, and what he really wanted was her. The boys, hearing this, refused and shouted that he must be a bad man. Leon, knowing they had misunderstood, seriously clarified that what he wanted was for her to work for him and reassured her he would provide food and lodging. Ifu and the boys knew it was a good offer, so they eventually agreed. A few minutes later, he handed her a contract. When Tito Leon read it, he became irritated, as the foolish woman had demanded vacations and many other things. He yelled, asking if she thought he was an idiot. Suddenly, a group of individuals entered the place. A masked man told his companions that his nose never failed him, and the delicious smell was coming from there. He noticed they wanted to take his sister's waffle and wouldn't allow it. Leon noticed this as well and stood between them. The man shouted if they wanted to fight, and Tito Leon replied that no, but if he was hungry, he could prepare one for him. The man named Feng asked his boss, John, for permission to try it. Protagonist: what is the price? I knew it wouldn't be free. Tito Leon suspects these types have a lot of crystals. While browsing the menu, John is surprised to see that a waffle costs 10 crystals. Tito Leon mentions that it's not easy to make a living in the apocalypse, and that this is a fair price. John knows he's right and orders 10 waffles. While Tito Leon prepares them, someone grabs John's arm and asks him to wait a moment. We see that person getting nervous, and their coordinator laughs because the boss's old problem is back. Every time he sees a pretty woman, he gets shy. He knew he made the right decision hiring that girl. Without further delay, the boss activates his Master Chef skill and 3 Doritos. Then we see the group fascinated as they taste the delicious waffles. Being a man of his word, John pays and curiously asks what else they have. Tito Lian mentions they have everything: fried chicken, roast meat, sodas, among many other things. Amazed, John orders 10 of each. Tito Lian apologizes, but explains that he doesn't have enough supplies for such a large order. John says not to worry, just tell him what he needs, and he'll bring it. Tito Lian tells his boss it seems this guy is a big deal. If they can secure supplies from him, they wouldn't need to take risks to find them. Tito Lian knew he was right, but just as he was about to speak, a boy arrives, saying that Sean and the others have just returned, and they're badly injured. Tito Lian is shocked to realize they're the same guys John fought with. Curious, he asks his men who attacked them. They mention they don't know, but it was some crazy guy yelling he was the chosen one. They obviously didn't believe him. But when they attacked, some kind of barrier repelled their blows. John is surprised because he's never heard of such a power. Suddenly, he realizes it's similar to what happened when he attacked you. Looking at him, he realizes it was indeed him trying to escape. Furious, John declares he'll eliminate him and won't let anyone hurt his group, the Thunder Legion. Upon hearing this, someone asks if he's the boss, and John responds yes, adding that if they need anything, they shouldn't hesitate to ask. Suddenly, the kids attack him, screaming that his men hurt their boss and mother. John easily stops them. On the other hand, Feng says that although they're thieves, they never hurt women or children. Tito Lian doesn't believe this and angrily shouts for him to let the kids go. Feng does as requested, and we see Tito Lian start launching simultaneous attacks. Tito Lian easily dodges them. When Tito Lian sees his men staying calm, he shouts for their help, but they refuse, saying he needs to overcome his psychological issue with women on his own. While they fight, we see some kind of tentacles observing them from the ceiling. Back to our protagonist, we see him remembering that he only has 1 block left. Not wanting to flee with Jesus, he considers escaping, but suddenly the men recognize him and shout to their boss that he's the one who hurt them. Hearing this, John gets furious and easily sends one flying. Angrily, he shouts at Tito Lian that he not only hurt his brothers, but also stole their crystals, so he must pay with his life. The men shout that their boss isn't afraid of him and will defeat him. Meanwhile, Feng says that their boss is a real man, unlike others who can't even look a woman in the eye. Tito Lian yells at them to shut up because they're only making him angrier. We then see Tito Lian destroy the ground with a single strike. Both the men and Kanan knew that guy was a monster. Feng says her boss is super powerful, and now they know who they've offended. Tito Lian has no choice but to dodge the attacks, knowing that if he takes even one hit, he's out. However, he fails to dodge in time and has no option but to block the attack as best as he can. Still, that single blow makes him spit blood. John acknowledges that he's tough because he withstood one of his punches, but he's still not his match. John gets serious and lands another blow, slamming him harshly against the wall. Tito Lian knows that at this rate, he'll die. His only chance of survival is reaching the cart. The stronger the blow, the greater the recoil effect. Meanwhile, something fiercely launches itself at him, passes between his legs, and like a dog, pulls at his pants to buy time. Everyone watching. The scene bursts into laughter. This, of course, didn't please Tito On, who wanted to pulverize that fool for such humiliation. On the other hand, someone took advantage of everyone being distracted to make the big guy release the boss, quickly grabbed their dagger, and was about to eliminate On because, thanks to him, they no longer had their mother. Well, they wouldn't allow the boss to get hurt. With no other choice, they opened fire. Tito Lian, realizing this, threw the cart, because if he didn't, the boy would die. He barely managed to save Ka, but because of that, he knew he'd get in trouble, and it was the result of trying to play the hero. Suddenly, a strong explosion occurs, and out of it emerges Vaifus, a beastdurs called Zru, who with a powerful punch sends flying through the air. Everyone is stunned, wondering where that woman came from. Chan screams that she's a zombie they had captured. The others, upon hearing she was a monster, start shooting, but it's useless. Poro dodges everything with ease. Tito Lian realizes these crazies might damage his cart, and once again narrowly saves it. Then he launches a missile. Zru, seeing that Tito Leon was protecting the cart, does the same and narrowly dodges the missile, causing it to explode elsewhere. The others keep shooting as if there's no tomorrow while the kids dodge the bullets as best they can. Zru notices a hostile intent toward Leon and rushes at him. The rest of the group wonders why that thing is only following him. Suddenly, they notice hundreds of tentacles descending. Izru lets herself be captured, being abruptly slammed against the wall of the hole caused by the missile explosion. From it emerges the mutant people who appeared at the beginning. That was why they were targeting Tito Leon. Ju shouts to her allies to open fire because the creature was mutated. They obey, but fighting the creature is difficult. Meanwhile, the kids approach Zru. Leon notices she was trying to save him and wonders why. Suddenly, she hands him the bag of chips he had thrown. Leon feels disgusted with himself for having tried to eliminate her, but she saved him. He asks Jan if she was really a zombie because she seemed to understand him. Jan analyzes and confirms that she is, but explains that she seems to have evolved due to special brain functions. Her IQ was equivalent to that of a 5-year-old child. Meanwhile, the children are saddened to see her suffering and don't want her to die because she was a good zombie. Kay explains that it would be hard for her to survive because her spine was broken. Tito Leon knew he couldn't let her die because she saved him, and he wanted to repay her. The problem was that being a zombie, normal medicine wouldn't work on her. However, if he defeated the mutant people, he could obtain a level 2 crystal, and maybe that would help find a cure. Meanwhile, Dion's men kept shooting the creature, but realized it made no difference. Chan shouts for his companions to step back and launches a missile. However, to his bad luck, the missile doesn't explode because the mutant catches it with its mouth. Irritated, the mutant begins attacking them, causing fatal injuries. As if that weren't enough, it spits corrosive liquid, causing unbearable pain. Titan, realizing the situation, like a true alpha male, grabs a massive rock and tells the kids to hide. The mutant, noticing this, tries to make him drop the rock. Ohm, however, doesn't give up. But suddenly, a piece of the rock breaks, and the mutant captures one of his men. Ohm doesn't allow this to happen and ferociously advances against the beast, trying to free his ally but failing because the tentacles were slippery. Suddenly, our protagonist appears wearing a raincoat and advances toward the beast. The creature notices and spits corrosive liquid at him, but it's in vain because he isn't affected. Everyone witnessing the scene believes he is the chosen one. When he gets close enough to the creature's mouth, he forcefully pushes the missile in, causing an explosion. Tit Leon knew that was epic, and is impressed with the raincoat that even the explosions protect, asks John if there could be another. Jan explains that the rewards were random, but all very good. Leon understands, quickly grabs the level 2 crystal, and upon defeating the mutant people, receives a healing candy and a recipe book. Jan explains that this was great, because in the apocalypse, both plants and monsters were edible, and using them as ingredients would result in better food than the usual. Tito Leon quickly stores everything, knowing it would be useful in the future, and gives the healing candy to Zru. As soon as she eats it, she feels much better, leaving the children radiant. However, Zru was still hungry. Yang, with no other option, gives her more fries as she kept asking for more food. Those observing knew he was a very reliable man. On the other hand, Kang asks Yuna to stay away from her because she might bite her. Simu notices she had food on her face and licks it off like a puppy. He also starts following Kay, who, embarrassed, runs as if there were no tomorrow. Little Jonah laughs because her brother is healed. Ohm, seeing that Kuro was with the zombie, asks Tito Leon to heal his men quickly because their wounds are very serious and they won't last much longer. Leon yells, asking if he's giving him an order, and reminds him that he is not his subordinate. Then Ohm apologizes and mentions that if Leon heals his men, he will be rewarded. Tito Leon would obviously accept, but suddenly, Kay throws him aside and yells at John that they will not help them because thanks to him, the mother of those kids is dead. John repeats that it wasn't them, as they don't harm women and children, and if it happened, maybe the person in question wasn't good. Kang and Yuna scream at them to shut up, stating that their mother was very good. Tito Leon then mentions that John is telling the truth and points out to Kang that something fell out of his pocket. Looking at it, he sees the symbol of the men who attacked them and asks to examine a dagger. On it, There's the emblem of the Thunder Legion. As they can see, it's completely different. So the people who attack them must be impersonating the Thunder Legion. John agrees, and now understands why they were being attacked. Kang and Yuna feel sad because they don't know who the real culprits are or how to get revenge. Kei says they won't because their mother wanted them to live. They look at each other and know he's right. On the other hand, Feng becomes furious because those idiots are impersonating them and promises to destroy them. Due to his severe injuries, he spits blood. John tells Leon that everything is now clear and asks him to please save his brothers, paying immediately to have them healed. Leon accepts, but upon starting to prepare the food, notices that several ingredients are spoiled. He knows that if he refuses now, he'll be turned to dust. However, he remembers that he has a new recipe book. He looks for a dish with the ingredients he has and finds a recipe for octopus. He activates his master chef mode and prepares a delicious dish. The men refuse to eat it because it was made from a monster. However, Feng smells the delicious aroma and decides that if he's going to die, at least he'll die with a full belly. Without hesitation, he takes a bite and tells his companions that it's delicious. Seeing how good it is, they also try it and are amazed. Not only was the taste incredible, but all their wounds were healed, and now they're full of energy. With everyone getting along, Langa takes the opportunity to negotiate supplies with John. The companions tell the boss not to accept, because thanks to him, they're injured. Tito Leon, tired, yells at them to shut up and attacks them because they wanted to rob him. They admit that he's right, but explain that they're professional thieves and couldn't let such an opportunity pass. Leon then asks why they captured the girl if they supposedly don't attack women, and even though she's a zombie, she's still a girl. They respond that they did it because of the boss, who, embarrassed, yells asking what they're talking about. They explain that they know he's afraid of women, so they captured the zombie to help him overcome his fear, promising they only had good intentions. Ju yells at them to shut up, saying they make him look like a pervert, and gives them a beating. Suddenly, Jin mentions to Ian that they need to hire a waitress to complete the mission. He explains that the signature of both is required to complete the process, and the person must also wear the exclusive uniform. Tito Leon, like an obedient dog, begins to imagine how Kian would look in the uniform. Jin, seeing that he was distracted, asks him to take the system seriously and hands over the uniform. Leon starts praying because it was something simple, and without hesitation he hands the outfits to the others. Kanan quickly begins undressing to put it on, while Tito Lan, realizing this, asks her to do it elsewhere because many people are watching. But she doesn't care. John, who can't resist anymore, faints, and as if that weren't enough, starts bleeding from his nose. Tito Leon asks Kian to pay attention, but suddenly a piece of dough falls on his. Perplexed, he wonders where the hell that came from, and when he looks at Kanan, he is greatly surprised to see that it was a man. Tito Leon curses his ancestors. Kanan, noticing his silence, mentions that he never said he was a woman. Tito agrees, but argues that dressed like that, anyone could misinterpret. Kian mentions that it's just a personal pastime. Tito Leon, in deep tears, realizes that, as if this wasn't enough, the time to sign the contract was running out. If he didn't do it now, he wouldn't obtain the mission's rewards. He asks Kian to sign, but was inwardly cursing his ancestors for his bad luck, as other heroes were surrounded by beauties in their groups, while he had a man dressed as a woman and 2 children. When he was about to sign, Kanan Zru appears and snatches the contract from his hands. Tito Leon tries to retrieve it as there wasn't much time left, but Zru doesn't release the document. When he finally does, it's revealed that there's a bite mark on it, and because of this, the contract is validated, making Kana the new assistant of a supposed street food vendor. Despite now having a pretty girl, he also didn't want zombies around. After some time, Kian was annoyed because Tito was sad about having him in the group, but at the same time, didn't even want a zombie. Tito mentions that, in truth, he didn't want anyone there. Curious, Kanan asks what they would do since no one else could live in that place. Kanan mentions that John would take them to his base and says there's a doctor who could treat Juna. Tito Leon cheers up because, despite being thieves, they were no longer just people, and the children would be safe with them. Suddenly, Juna mentions that her zombie sister had dropped something and hands it to Tito Leon. He realizes it was the employee badge and discovers her name. John then gives him the address of his base in case he needs anything. Tito is surprised to realize it was Prison Kingan, which he knew to be a heavily protected place and ideal for rebuilding their lives. Kanan, hearing this, comments that his boss is very smart and likes men like that. Tito, still shocked by the situation, reflects on everything, but suddenly, he remembers that the lock hadn't been activated. He mentions to Jin that it seems the product is defective and requests a replacement. Jin stops him, asking him to wait a moment, as he would send a request to the superiors. A few seconds later, Jin informs him that the request was denied and that the locking function works but hadn't been activated because Kana was now his employee, and the system doesn't take responsibility for the damage she causes. Hearing this, Tito Leon becomes furious, thinking that if he had known this would happen, he would have accepted Kanan even if he was a man. However, what's done is done. He wonders how the hell he will fix the situation. Jin, seeing him pray, informs him that he is just 100 points away from leveling up and being able to solve the problem. The mission consisted of collecting 500 kilograms of meat. Tito Leon knew it would be very difficult, as it was too much meat, but suddenly, he remembers there's a chicken farm nearby. Per Anne, he investigates in the cookbook what the mutated chickens were like and notes that physically they were identical to normal ones, but bigger and obviously with more meat. Besides, they were the mutated creatures with the lowest attack power. 3 Doritos later, he was already there, but the situation was complicated because there were many around when she told Zru that he would be the bait while she defeated them. She nodded, and without further ado, he threw a plank to distract the chickens. But to his surprise, they didn't run after the plank. They thought they were playing. Leon, realizing this, cursed his ancestors for being foolish enough to trust her, knowing she had the mental age of a child. Because of this, the chickens noticed his presence and, hungry, started chasing him. Leon ran as if there were no tomorrow, knowing that if one of those things clawed or pecked him, it would be game over because their beaks were super sharp. As he fled, he saw a fence in the distance, and underneath it, there was a hole, perfect for escaping those things. He put on turbo speed and barely managed to escape the mutated chickens. Suddenly, he noticed something slimy on his hands. When he looked at the ground, he was shocked to find it was eggs. He quickly realized he had stumbled upon a hen's nest, and indeed he was right, because the mother hen appeared in front of him. She was immense and furious. She began attacking him for breaking her eggs. With no other option, Leon ran for his life again. Suddenly, he realized the hen was targeting his friend down there. He panicked because it hadn't been used yet, and there was no way he was going to let it get hurt. We see him perform a leg lock on the creature, causing it to lose consciousness for a moment. But as a result, its berserker mode activated. Enraged, it sent him flying. Luckily, Leon landed on the hen's back. Realizing this, the hen went berserk, shaking wildly to make him fall off. Leon knew that if he let go, he was done for. So, he held on tightly. In another scene, we see a military truck where they were informing a captain named Wong that the first, second, and third teams had already returned empty-handed. His men, hearing this, said their captain was the best, and they would be the envy of everyone because they were the only ones who found supplies. Suddenly, the truck hit a spike, causing a tire to deflate. A man named Choi quickly started changing it. A young man named Min commented that he was too nervous. They'd passed through the area several times and hadn't seen any monsters, so he could take his time. Captain Wang reminded them never to let their guard down. The number of mutants had increased, so they needed to be more alert. Min nodded in understanding. Moments later, Choi smacked them for talking too much and told them they should feel lucky to be on this team, as they knew it had the highest success rate and the fewest casualties, thanks to their captain, who was experienced and cautious. He urged them to stay focused when they were out in the field. The boys apologized and got serious. Min asked if he could go pee, and Choi told him to be quick. Meanwhile, Captain Wong heard something in the distance. He went to investigate and saw a giant snake about to attack Min. He landed a headshot on the snake and shouted at everyone to get in the truck immediately, as the noise would attract more monsters. They complied, but as they were leaving, another giant snake followed them. It effortlessly caught up, flipping the truck into the air and capturing it with its tail. Captain Wong realized the snake wanted to crush them. He couldn't shoot it because the fuel tank was leaking and shooting would cause an explosion, killing everyone. In short, they were doomed. Suddenly, they saw a chicken approaching from a distance. On its back was a man. The snake also noticed this. Leon, already exhausted from dealing with the crazed hen, he becomes serious and firmly grabs her head, and thanks to his physical improvement, he sends her flying to the lobby. On the other hand, we see that the snake begins to devour her. Tito Liang, who couldn't see anything, wondered why he was still in the air and thought the snake was a telephone pole, so he calmly descended. However, as he did so, he noticed that it was a massive snake. Seeing more walking food, she swallows the chick in one bite. Lee shouts that she must already be full, so he begs her to forgive him. The reptile, of course, does not comply and begins to chase him. Because of this, she forgets about the soldiers and lets go of the truck. Choi tells his boss that the car still works. Mink, who heard him, Choi mentions to his boss that the car still works. Min, who heard him, tells him to then get it out of here. Captain Wang tells him not to, because thanks to that boy, they are safe, and that if they run away now, what kind of soldiers would they be? They know he is right because they joined the army to save people. They go in search of Tito Liang to rescue him, but he didn't even realize they were there, because he was on the hen's back and never saw anything. Back with Zru, we see that she got tired of playing and was looking everywhere for Liang but couldn't see him. Suddenly, the little group of chickens attacks her. She remembers that he wanted to carry them, so she grabs the cages and captures them all. Back to Tito Liang, we see that he was running non-stop because he didn't want to go with St. Peter. He begs Jin to help him. Jin tells him he would like to, but he has no way of doing so, and the only way is with the food stall. Finally, we see that the ferocious creature catches him. Tito Liang gives in and awaits his tragic fate. Just as he is about to be devoured, the beautiful shrew appears and abruptly hits the snake with her chicken cage, defeating it. Tito Liang, seeing that she saved him, thanks her with all his heart and knows that he must teach her to distinguish between play and work so that this doesn't happen next time. Jin congratulates him for completing the mission of collecting the 500 kilograms of meat, and thanks to that, he gets the 100 points he was missing for the food stall upgrade. We see that he goes from a street cart to a full food truck, where we left off the previous episode after Zru defeated the mutant snake. Lee manages to collect the 500 kilograms of meat, and thanks to that, the system rewards him with a street food truck. He, of course, is amazed when he sees it and gets a bit sentimental because now he won't have to sleep outdoors. He thanks Jin for it. Jin tells him it's because of his excellent work and that since he completed the mission so quickly, he gets an additional reward. Now he can use weapons for 3 minutes. Liang gets excited upon hearing that and opens the arsenal to see what's inside, but is greatly surprised to find a kitchen knife, a spatula, and a strainer. Outraged, he yells at Jin that he won't even be able to take down a zombie with that. Jin tells him not to underestimate kitchen utensils, because not only does each one have its own abilities, but they can also be upgraded according to the host's skills. Liang believes him, because that guy never lies to him, and excited, he takes one out to try it. But before doing so, he asks Zru if she wants to play a game. She happily agrees. Without delay, we see how Tito Liang, with his little kitchen knife, begins slicing through the imposing creatures as if nothing. Meanwhile, we see the lovely shrew taking care of catching the meat and placing it all in one spot. Liang thanks her for it and tells Jin that her ability is amazing. Suddenly, Jin notifies him that there's a new mission: to create 3 new dishes with the existing supplies, sell them to 3 customers, and get a 5-star rating. He tells him not to worry because there's no time limit for the mission, but warns that if there's a negative review, all the points he has earned so far will be erased. Angry, Liang yells that it's robbery because everyone has different tastes, and if he doesn't satisfy one person, he'll lose everything he's worked for. Jin asks him to calm down and acknowledges the difficulty is high, but informs him that if he succeeds, unimaginable rewards await him. Hearing that, Liang calms down a bit and realizes there's no time limit, so since it's hard to find survivors, he decides to take a 2-day break. Jin, annoyed, yells at him to get back to work. Liang, like a true rebel, tells him no, because if he's going to lose everything because of a random person, he might as well enjoy his truck a little. As he was about to get in, he wondered if it would hold up, because he didn't want it to get destroyed like last time. But without further delay, he tells Zru to get in, because they're leaving. Back to the soldiers, we see they come across the remains of a corpse. Some thought it was our protagonist. Captain Wang tells them those bones are too big to be human, so the boy must still be alive. Suddenly, Cho yells to his lord to come immediately because he found something big. He follows, and comes across the remains of the imposing reptile, and also of some birds but none from a human, and they wondered what could have taken out those creatures. Captain Wang, very serious, wondered if maybe it was that guy, because there was no trace of him. Back to Tito Liang, we see he was super happy, calmly driving through the forest. Zru, who was like a little girl, was also having a lot of fun. Suddenly, they come across a horde in the distance. Liang, excited, wanted to see how powerful that baby was, so he floors the gas pedal to crush the zombies. But to his surprise, they bounce off. Turns out the shield was activated. He asks Jin to deactivate it for a moment, and with that done, he starts plowing through the huge horde with his truck. On the other hand, we see the lovely Shin Rusel was having a phenomenal time. As night falls, we see Lee taking a little shower, and upon feeling the hot water, he gets a bit sentimental because it had been a long time since he last bathed. Suddenly, he feels like someone is watching him, and nervously moves the curtain, but sees no one, thinking maybe he's just a bit paranoid and keeps showering peacefully. But once again, he feels like someone is watching him and notices a shadow behind the curtain. He quickly moves it and is shocked to see the adorable Zru. Tito Liang, embarrassed, covers himself and asks her what the hell she's doing there. She tries to communicate, but he doesn't understand a damn thing. Jin suddenly shows up and mentions that she desires his body. Liang is shocked to hear that and thinks he's lying, but suddenly notices how Zru is slowly approaching. Tito Liang is in shock because it was true, and admits that even though she's a zombie, she's very beautiful, and he was seriously thinking about letting her love him, but his common sense quickly returns, because she was a zombie. Suddenly, he notices she was opening her mouth and, perplexed, wonders what the hell she was doing when suddenly she lunges at him and tries to bite him. Tito Liang, shocked, quickly moves away because he thought she had infected him, but then realizes he's not bleeding and figures out the soap saved him because he was really slippery. He quickly notices that she had no intention of leaving him alone, and with no other option, runs like there's no tomorrow, and perplexed, asks Jin what's wrong with her. Jin mentions that zombies have an insatiable hunger and reminds him that she hasn't eaten anything today, and when seeing a walking piece of meat like him, how could she not lose control? Liang knew he had to feed her something quickly, or he'd be seeing Jesus. We see the lovely Zru eating a bunch of grilled meat. On the other hand, Liang was aware that this time he got lucky, and if that happened again while he was asleep, she would attack him, and he wouldn't even notice. Curious, he asks Jin how he can guarantee his safety in that situation. Jin mentions the only thing he can do is feed her a lot. Liang, annoyed, tells him that doesn't help at all, but suddenly he gets a brilliant idea and looks through his stuff for something that could help, and it turns out to be dental retainers. The next morning, we see Liang dressed to the nines, and without further delay, he gets to work. On the other hand, we see the adorable Zru checking out her teeth. After a while, Jin congratulates the protagonist for the idea of the retainers. Suddenly, they see a military vehicle in the distance. Liang gets out to investigate and notices that there was no one inside and wonders why, since it was in good condition and even had gas. But when he takes a look underneath, he notices dozens of nails and realizes the tires blew out, and he's aware that someone set that trap. Suddenly, they hear a burst of gunfire in the forest. Zru, who hated that sound, gets super angry. Tito Liang, noticing this, asks her to calm down and, curious, goes to take a look. A few minutes later, we see that Liang found the person responsible. It was a beautiful Gufu named Yuna, who was fighting off a horde. He acknowledges that she has great aim, but he knew she wouldn't last long because reloading takes time, and she's good at a distance, but up close she'd be screwed. He knew all that very well because he died once because of it, and seriously wondered whether to help her, but then remembers he also died another time for helping a stranger, so better to just observe. He notices the girl runs out of ammo, and a zombie takes advantage of that. Bugaz lunges at her fiercely, and when he thought it was his end, he gets a big surprise. She was repro because little by little she starts taking out all the zombies with her dagger, and in a matter of seconds, she clears the horde. Leon is shocked by such madness. On the other hand, we see that Juna enters the river and was planning to take a little bath. Tito Leon, who noticed this, starts bleeding from his nose like a Noko and thought the girl saw him and did it on purpose so that he would come and fall into one of her traps. But no way was he going to go, and just as he was about to leave, we see that the cute shrew gets mesmerized by a butterfly and follows it, and unintentionally pushes Tito Leon off the mountain. But blessed from above, he survives, and furious, he was going to teach that fool a lesson because she almost sent him to meet St. Peter. But soon, he notices she had something in her hand, and when he looks to see what it is, he gets a big surprise. It was her clothes. And nervously, he knew he had to get out of there before she came back. But it was already too late because the waifu was already behind him and puts the dagger to his neck. Tito Leon, terrified, begs for mercy. She's surprised because she thought he was a zombie. Leon tells her he's not, and that if she doesn't believe him, she can check. Juna realizes he had her clothes and was going to finish him off. Tito Leon, seeing her expression, swears he's not a bad person and that it's all a misunderstanding, that he fell and didn't see anything. The Gufo, upon hearing that, turns super red. He saw her while she was bathing, and she wasn't going to forgive him. And just as she was about to finish him, the lovely Sinro appears to the rescue, attacking them as she starts launching simultaneous attacks non-stop. And Juna, who was repro, dodged everything with no problem. Suddenly, she notices that idiot wouldn't stop staring at her, and annoyed, she yells that as soon as she finishes, she'll destroy him. Tito Leon, not wanting to meet Jesus yet, runs like there's no tomorrow. On the other hand, we see the lovely Zru mesmerized by the great personality of the waifu and thought she was a giant dumpin and being hungry wanted to take a bite. Suddenly, a guy shoots at them, but the girls manage to dodge the bullet in time. The guy, named Jan, yells at Yuna that she's very skilled because she was able to take out all those zombies. She realizes he was the one who sent the horde and also the one who punctured her car. He tells her, "Sisas," and that he didn't plan to see her again, and yells that if she had been obedient and given him management of the base, she could have kept enjoying the food. And since she didn't, she shouldn't blame him for wanting to finish them off. Right away, he tells his guys to open fire, but they don't land a single hit. The reason is that Yuna quickly hid in some bushes and immediately flees to the other side. A curious girl asks her boss if he'll let her escape. He tells her not to worry because in that direction there's a cliff. But he knew it would be too easy to let her die like that, so he orders his men to go and catch her, but to bring her back alive. Suddenly, one of the guys mentions that the girl who was beside Yuna didn't run, and apparently is very dumb and hasn't understood the situation. Jan yells to his brothers that they're in luck because they've got a new toy, and once he's had enough fun with her, he'll hand her over to them. He shouts that whoever captures her will be the first to try her out. The little rats shout to their boss that he's the best and quickly surround the cute Zru. They notice she's very innocent, and they really like that, and they were eager to play with her. One of them couldn't take it anymore and lunges at her fiercely, but to his surprise, Zru stops him like it's nothing and suddenly rips off one of his arms with a pull. The rat obviously starts screaming in overwhelming pain. His buddies, seeing that, are in shock and were going to take out that lunatic, but it's a total FE because Tito Liang appears to the rescue, sending them flying with his truck. Furious, he yells at the rats that that's what they get for trying to lay a hand on. Her cute self, Shrew, who saw her boss, becomes super happy and with a simple jump is on top of the truck. Leon, worried, asks if she's okay. She, like a cute kitten, shows him what she caught. He is shocked to see it was a hand. Returning to Yuna, we see that she finally reaches the cliff and was aware that there was no escape. And just as she was about to take another route, she notices that those guys caught up with her, and one of them quickly attacks. She, who was repro, blocks him, but ends up being thrown to the ground by a powerful kick. Yan quickly threatens her with his weapon and tells her that if she moves, he'll blow her to pieces. Jun, furious, yells that he's a despicable man. Jianrei, enraged, tells her he'll show her what he really is, and the first thing he'll do is play with her until he gets tired. Then he'll chain her to the front of the car and drive to the base and show the people there their so-called goddess. But it was going to end in a total failure, because Tito Liang arrives to the rescue. The cute shrew Refua fiercely lunges at the guy and little by little starts ripping all his clothes. The little rat, scared, yells at his guys to save him. On the other hand, Tito Leon yells at Yuna to quickly get in the car. She is surprised, but ends up accepting his help. Returning to where we left off in the previous episode, Liang yells at Yuna to get in the car quickly. She asks him to wait a moment, in which she quickly grabs a weapon from the ground and yells at the little rat that if he wants to feel good, she'll help with that. And without further delay, she opens fire, aiming at his little friend. The guy barely dodges the shot, but due to the fright, he wets his pants. Gufo, realizing this, bursts out laughing, and since she had no more ammo, she quickly gets in the car. Tito Liang, seeing the cute Zru outside, yells at her to get in quickly. She, of course, obeys her boss, and once that's done, he floors the accelerator. Jianrei, furious, was not going to allow those fools to escape and begins to chase them and shoot as if there were no tomorrow. But they end up escaping quickly because for some strange reason, the bullets were bouncing. A few minutes later, we see they successfully escaped. Leon, noticing the waifu had no clothes, tells her she can use his, although they're a bit worn. She ends up accepting, but upon seeing them, realizes they were completely torn. But still, she was going to use them. And she had a brilliant idea, to cut both the shirt and pants, adapting them into a crop top and shorts. She thanks Tito Leon for that. He is left mesmerized by her beauty, but the joy wouldn't last long because she threatens him with a dagger and very seriously tells him that if he doesn't want to meet Jesus, he better answer her questions sincerely. Apparently, her friend is distracted with something else and can't scream to ask for help, but she assures him her dagger is faster than her. Leon, scared as hell, begs Jin to get that lunatic out of there. He tells him he can't, because he gave her permission to enter. Liang Refuo yells that he's going to let her kill him, and with no other choice, he tells the beautiful lady that he'll answer all her questions sincerely. She, curious, asks why he saved her. He tells her because he's a good person. Yuna doesn't believe that at all, and since he lied, she was going to kill him. Tito Liang begs her to wait a moment and tells her that he's actually an apocalyptic chef, and since he saw she's good at fighting, she must have lots of crystal cores, so she could become his customer. This time, she does believe him because she saw in the back a huge kitchen and remembers that at her base, their chef died from eating poisonous mushrooms. So she tells him that if what he said is true, she could take him in at her base, which is the biggest within a 100-mile radius with around 300 people. Tito Liang, upon hearing that, becomes super happy because he found his 100 customers and was emo excited to know what the reward would be this time. Yuna suddenly, very seriously, tells him that maybe he's lying and how could she trust him. Suddenly her stomach growls and embarrassed, she yells that if he wants her to believe him, he has to prepare a dish for her. Lee knew obviously she was hungry but was ashamed to admit it, but he accepts and yells that he'll show her his culinary skills. 3 Doritos later, we see Gufo waiting for another. Liang was wondering what to do for him since his dishes are very common and he had to make a great impression so that he would accept him into his base. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't complete the mission and wouldn't get his expected reward. Suddenly, he senses something moving behind him, where he quickly grabs a dagger and was about to take it down, but he gets a big surprise. It was the lovely Zru disguised as a snake. Liang suddenly remembers that during the fight earlier, one of Zru's boots broke, and maybe she tried to fix it, and since she couldn't, she put on that snake skin. He apologizes for having forgotten about her and tells her he will fix her outfit. As he apologizes for having forgotten about her and tells her that he will soon get his outfit ready, a few minutes later, we see Ayuna furious for having waited so long, and she gets up irritated to look for this fool. On the other hand, we see that Tito Liang had just finished sewing Zru's boot and asks her to try it on. She is extremely happy to see that it is as good as new. Yuna, who has noticed this, mentions that she did not expect him to know how to sew. He tells her that since his parents were busy with work, his grandmother raised him and he learned it from her, and he thinks that if she were alive, the monsters would be afraid of her. She tells him that people say that children raised by older people are lucky. He tells her that not at all, because his grandparents scolded him for everything, and that if she wants that luck. She, very seriously, mentions that, if it were possible, yes, because both she and her brother are orphans and were raised in an orphanage, they never knew their parents. Liang, upon hearing this, falls into a deep silence. Yuna, who has noticed this, quickly changes the subject, demanding her food, but suddenly begins to sneeze non-stop. Liang, who has noticed this, covers her with the snake skin, because he knows that having spent so much time in the river and not having very warm clothes, it would be strange if she didn't catch a cold. He asks her to sit down because he will prepare the food. A few minutes later, he serves her a delicious snake soup. Upon seeing this, Gufu almost dies of fear and nervousness, and immediately asks if the mutated snake meat is not infected. Tito Liang asks her not to worry because he has eliminated everything and assures her that it is edible. Seeing that she remains in a deep silence, he asks her with a little laugh if she is afraid and asks her not to blame him because he has already tested her skills. Since she does not want to eat because she is afraid, he asks Zru to come eat. Upon hearing this, she quickly goes. Jonah, who hated being called a coward, says she's going to eat it and, without further ado, tries a spoonful. We see that she is instantly fascinated because the meat is delicious and tender, and the broth is succulent. Because of this, she eats as if there were no tomorrow. Tito Liang, who notices this, curiously asks her what she thought. She mentions that the cold she had recently disappeared, and that she feels very energetic. Curious, she asks if this is due to the meat of the mutated snake. He tells her yes, because it not only restores energy, but also strengthens muscles and bones. Although the cold has been eliminated, it was the spice he added, ginger and pepper, that made all the difference. When he added them to the soup, he completely transformed it, because there is no better medicine to eliminate a cold. Jonah thought he was a fool, but when he saw his culinary skills, he considers that he is undoubtedly an expert. Suddenly, Tito Liang asks her to please evaluate his food. She says it's no problem and gives him a 5-star rating. With that done, she mentions that he passed her test, although he's not hired yet and has only passed the preliminary evaluation. He must return with her to the base, where he will do a more detailed evaluation. Tito Liang is irritated by this, but he had no other option but to accept. After a long time, we see that they were about to reach the base. Liang is impressed because it was huge, in addition to having a large wall that protected them. Juna mentions that it was very difficult to find a base like that, but fortunately, they found that metal factory. Liang mentions that it's an excellent refuge, and that it's no wonder those guys want to take it. Jonah tells her that this guy, Jay, was about to die at the hands of a zombie horde, but she felt sorry for him, saved him, and let him stay. A short time later, he started spreading rumors that he liked her, and also allowed his accomplices to enter to take over the base. Fortunately, the guards discovered him in time. She regrets not having let him die from the zombies that day, and warns Liang not to make the same mistake twice, so it's better that he doesn't even think about doing something like that. Nervously, he says he understands. A few minutes later, 2 girls finally arrive who didn't recognize the car and weren't going to let them in. Yuna, who noticed this, shows herself, and thanks to that, they are allowed to pass immediately. Her friends named Kanan and El Ru, curious, ask their boss what happened to her car and her clothes, and above all, who those guys were. She tells them that they saved her. It turns out that that little group attacked her when she was coming back, and although she got rid of them, she wasn't able to get the car and the supplies back. The waifus, upon hearing this, get furious and swear that if they see that guy, they will destroy him. Now a little calmer, curious, they ask their boss what she intends to do with him. Those guys. She mentions that they will be her new chefs, and that she has tasted their food, and it is certainly very good. Since they still have the wild boar meat, she asks them to go get it from the warehouse along with the vegetables, and asks Tito Liang to please prepare one of her delicious dishes. Changing scenes, we see a girl named Yan disgusted by tasting the wild boar meat. A boy named Chen asks her not to worry, and that he will get something more delicious. On the other hand, some guys were insulting a man named Lee, who was in charge of the warehouse, for having given them such a horrible thing. Chen, furious, was going to get some food himself. Old Lee asks him to stop, because without Miss Juna's permission, no one can enter. The guys shout at him to be quiet, because he is the boss's younger brother and can do whatever he wants. Chenga, seeing that he is locked in, asks for the keys and warns that if he does not give them to him, he will not give him anything to eat for 3 days. Suddenly, Yuna arrives and, very seriously, asks her brother what the hell he is doing, if he shouldn't be getting supplies right now. Nervously, he mentions that he came back early because something unexpected happened, and he came to the store for some food. But that guy only gave him garbage. Old Lee tries to explain what happened to his boss. She asks him to wait a moment and very seriously orders her brother to get that piece of meat right now, that he forgot that people were injured when capturing the wild boar. Upon hearing this, they fall into deep silence. Leon, who has noticed the situation, knows that she is a great leader because she cares about her people, while her brother is a fool. Suddenly, Joan mentions to Juna that it is not her brother's fault, but hers, because she was the one who threw the meat away and asks her to please not blame him. Chen asks her not to worry about it. Juna, who had never seen this woman, very seriously asks who Joan is. Fearful, she is unable to speak. Chen, upon realizing this, asks his sister not to scare her, as Joan is very shy. Juna, very serious, mentions that it seems that this was the reason why he came back early. He tells her that it was, and that they found her hiding in an empty supermarket, surrounded by zombies, and that when they rescued her, they discovered that she had not eaten for several days, and feeling sorry for her, they brought her. Tito Leon, who heard this, is super happy and knows that hungry people are the best, and that they will give him a good score with anything he gives them, because it seems wonderful to them. On the other hand, Jonah, irritated, mentions to his brother that he doesn't know the rules, and that he can't bring a stranger without first knowing their background. He replies that he is not a bad person, as his father was the richest man in the city, and his mother was a famous pianist, and he knows that now he distrusts people because of John. But he assures him that Joan is a good person. Queen Il-Ru yells that just because he's rich, he's a good person now, and that those who have more are the cruelest. The guys, upon hearing this, get super furious and start defending Yan like crazy. The girls yell that, because they're hypnotized by her beauty, they're not listening to the boss now. On the other hand, we see Tito Leon super happy, because the longer they fight, the hungrier the girl will get, and his 5 stars will be guaranteed. Meanwhile, he starts dancing with the beautiful Zru. Chen, who notices this, gets furious and asks his sister who these guys are, because he's never seen them before. She mentions that they're her new chefs. Cheng, upon hearing this, gets angry, because she doesn't accept Yuen, but she accepts these people. Besides, they don't look like chefs at all, so they must be lying. He orders his henchmen to find out the truth. The rats charge fiercely at Tito Yang, but it ends up being a total failure, because the beautiful Zru completely defeats them in an instant. And just as he is about to break their arms, Lee asks him to calm down, because otherwise, how will they eat? He then apologizes to the boys for this, and because of this little incident, he will give them a free side dish when they visit his store and asks them to please leave a good review. The guys, of course, are furious because they were beaten up, and now they just want to forget about it. Chen couldn't stand for his comrades to be hurt, so he quickly takes out his Yuna. He noticed this and was going to stop him quickly, but he was too far away. And without further ado, he opens fire. When he notices this, he is shocked. The beautiful Zru, seeing that her boss is not getting up, is furious and throws herself ferociously at the rat, starting to give him a good beating. Just as he was about to finish him off, he begged for forgiveness, starts beating the rat, and continues biting his arm with all her strength. Obviously, the guy starts screaming in pain, and since he can't get rid of her, he begs An and Liru to get her off him. However, despite his pleas, they don't even move. The reason for this is that he killed someone for a stupid reason. Yan, upon realizing this, asks Chen's friends to help him, but they refuse, since this girl is very strong and, in addition, they are also injured. Returning to the beautiful Zru, we see how she bites the guy's arm hard with the intention of tearing it off. Chen, upon noticing this, begs his sister to save him, but to his surprise, she also ignores him. Then, we see how she slowly approaches the body of our protagonist. When she gets close, she kneels down and asks for forgiveness with all her heart, saying that if she had known this would happen, she would never have brought him here. Suddenly, we see that Tito Liang opens his eyes and stands up as if nothing had happened. Everyone who sees this is shocked, and it was no wonder, because they saw that he had been shot in the head. Perplexed, they wondered how he was still alive. On the other hand, we see that the beautiful Sindhu is extremely happy to see that he is okay and quickly runs to hug him. He, upon noticing her concern, says that he would not die so easily. While comforting her, he glares murderously at the rat. The terrified man tries to run away, but Tito Liang quickly catches up with him and starts beating him up for trying to ruin his beautiful face, while teaching him a lesson, calling him an idiot. Tito Liang tells us that, at the moment that lunatic shot him, he quickly ordered Jin to activate one of his abilities, which consisted of granting him super speed and agility. Due to this, he saw everything in slow motion and managed to narrowly dodge the bullet in the last millisecond. Thanks to this, he saved himself, but due to the maximum use of his power, he lost consciousness for a few seconds. Back in the present, Yona, curious, asks if he is okay. Liang answers that he is, but that he should reconsider whether or not to stay, because it is definitely not pleasant to be shot. Upon hearing this, he shouts to his sister that they cannot allow them to stay because these guys are not normal. On the one hand, there is that guy who survived a gunshot for a strange reason. On the other hand, there is that girl whose skin is as white as a zombie's, and she doesn't speak and only bites, which is certainly not normal. Everyone, upon hearing this, knows that he is right. Tito Liang, upon realizing this, curses his ancestors for such bad luck, since they have already discovered them. But blessed by the one above, he knew that it was not quite like that. The girls mentioned that they must be awakened, since there is no other explanation for them being so strong. And upon thinking about this, they become extremely restless, since they now have awakened ones in their base. On the other hand, we see Lee calmly noticing that they haven't been discovered. Suddenly, the curious waifus ask what his superpower is. Liang doesn't know what to say. Yuna, noticing his nervousness, asks the girls not to pressure him, as he'll tell them when he feels comfortable. The rat, noticing their excitement, refuses and shouts that that idiot could never be an awakened since he's just a damn cook. Tito Liang, with a chuckle, mentions that it's not his fault he's the chosen one, and that he sees no problem in liking to cook. The rat, shocked, doesn't know what to say. On the other hand, his friends believe that they are awakened because they are so strong, and mention that, together with their boss, the base now has 3 awakened. Tito Liang, upon hearing this, simply couldn't believe that that idiot had powers, and that was easily defeated by Shu. Suddenly, Juna tells him that she is right, although her brother still has not fully awakened, and is that before a person awakens, their superpowers appear with signs like high fever, hallucinations, marks on the body, among many other things. On the other hand, Shan notices John nervous, while she asks him not to worry, because her fever has decreased in these days, and she feels that soon she will awaken. And as soon as that happens, she will teach those guys a lesson for being so arrogant that they don't even say what their superpowers are. She asks that he not worry, and knows that he is the best. The beautiful Sue, who heard it, got irritated and wanted to beat up the little rat, who noticed it, almost peed herself in fear, and screamed not to come closer. Iluna, who noticed that they were going to fight again, asks everyone to please calm down and mentions her brother's little friend, who will be allowed to stay at the base, but informs that no matter how rich she once was, now she must work hard like everyone else, and that she understands that the supplies are for everyone, and she can't take the electricity without authorization, and if she is not capable of obeying the rules, she will be expelled. John, nervous, tells her that she understands. Shen asks why his sister is being so harsh with her, mentions that it was all his fault, and asks please to stop always pointing at her. Jonah, irritated, stares him straight in the eyes. He, who noticed it, knew that he was screwed, so preferred to stay quiet. On the other hand, Jonah asks old Lee to bring some ingredients from the warehouse, because it is necessary to welcome the new members with a delicious lunch, and asks Yang if he can take charge of that, since she wanted everyone to try his delicious food. He, of course, accepts, since he needed to complete his mission. Suddenly, Shen asks his sister to please let him take charge of the ingredients, as a way of apologizing for the misunderstanding from earlier. She ends up accepting. Changing the scene, we see that all the members of the base found out that there was a new leader, and if that wasn't enough, he was an awakened one, and they were curious to know how his food would be. Returning to Tito Lian, we see that he was sad. The reason for this is that all the ingredients they brought him were rotten, and if that wasn't enough, there were also no seasonings. A curious one asks her brother what happened. He mentions that due to the heavy rains, the vegetables spoiled, but asks that she not worry, because he feels that Leon, even with spoiled food, will prepare something delicious. Leon sensed that that brat had set a trap for him. The reason for this is that his attitude changed drastically out of nowhere. But he was going to teach a lesson, while saying to Jin that he would bring something from the truck. He mentions that it can only be used inside it. On the other hand, Shen's friends ask him not to worry, because they hid the ingredients in good condition, and after the advertisement they made, the outsiders will be angry for not tasting a decent meal, and both that idiot and his sister will be strongly criticized for that. John, who is me, curiously asks Shen why he is being so mean to his sister. He mentions that it is because she let those two strangers stay, and that they are not good people, so they should be expelled. Although that was all a lie, and the real reason for his anger is that his status as an awakened one was being threatened by those fools. Changing the scene, we see the starving people, from waiting so long. Kaliru, who noticed that, quickly goes to inform their boss. Lian's mentions that she didn't do anything because the vast majority of the ingredients are rotten, and the only thing that occurs to her to make is mingal. Shenga, upon hearing that, quickly goes out to inform everyone to be patient, because their star chef will soon prepare some delicious porridges. The people are outraged because they waited so long for such a simple dish, and irritated, they mention that the previous chef prepared more delicious things. Tito Leon was aware that that idiot actually hates him to death, because he placed public outrage on him. Yuna, who noticed the anger of the people, tells them that it is her fault, and is that, on the way to the base, she had an accident and lost all the supplies she collected. That's why Leah can't cook something more delicious, even if she wants to, and she promises that next time she won't disappoint them. Everyone knew how much she tries, so they ask her not to worry, and the most important is that she is safe, and is that without her, there wouldn't be a safe place to stay. Juna, upon hearing that, thanks from the bottom of her heart for the understanding. On the other hand, John mentions to Shen that his sister is a leader. We see that he gets irritated, and is that she continues defending that idiot. John, who noticed that, feels happy. On the other hand, we see that the people apologize to Tito Lian and say they will bring some ingredients to help. He was aware that everyone loves and respects Yuna, and didn't understand why he never heard of her in the future, and is that, with the size of the base and her leadership, she should have developed well. But in none of his 9 lives did he hear her name, so something must have happened. Suddenly, Lirulis comments that they can't eat the meat of the boar they hunted because that girl made them throw it in the trash, as it was dirty, and she refused. Upon hearing that, everyone gets irritated and yells at her, asking with what authority she wastes their food. Shen Sim quickly goes to defend her and yells to everyone that she is not used to this type of dish, and is that, throughout her life, she ate delicacies. Her companions also defend her. Liru mentions that, since they wasted everyone's food, the fair thing is that they have their ration reduced for a while. John, seeing that all of this happened because of his fault, Liz apologizes and mentions that she didn't want anyone to get hurt. Juna, who heard her, curiously asks what she is referring to. John asks Shen to bring her. A few minutes later, we see that they bring a box filled with boar meat. John, upon seeing her with teary eyes, mentions that the real reason she wanted to throw the meat away is that this meat is infected with the zombie virus. Everyone, upon hearing that, is in shock. She tells them that, as they can see, the meat is black in color and has a strange smell. That reminds her of the zombies, and since she didn't want anyone to get infected, she asked the boys to wait and then burn everything. Upon seeing her, they begin to agree with her, and it's because the color was unusual. Besides that, the aroma resembled zombie rot. They mention that maybe it was due to improper storage. The old man who was there comments that he waited, as the previous chef said. John mentions that he doesn't think it's because of that, and that maybe it's a mutated creature. The terrified people believe her and thank her from the bottom of their hearts for having saved them. She says it was nothing. Suddenly, Shen comments to his sister that she owes everyone an apology. She, irritated, yells if he thinks she wanted to infect everyone. He mentions that he understands she wants to be admired by everyone, but she can't risk everyone's lives without confirming if the meat was edible. The waifus, upon hearing how he treats his sister, get irritated with him. On the other hand, Jonah, very serious, mentions that she doesn't believe he really thinks she is like that. He, upon hearing her, falls into deep silence. John, who saw her reaction, comments that his sister works very hard gathering supplies, and a slip-up like that was inevitable. Still, Lou yells for her to shut up because the boss confirmed the meat several times. But despite what was said, people start to believe John's words. On the other hand, we see Tito Leon smelling the meat. Everyone, upon noticing this, yells for him to get away from it. He doesn't pay attention to them and, like a true rebel, takes a bite. The people, upon realizing this, are in shock. Tito Leon, upon seeing that it was delicious, tells Shrew to take the meat to the kitchen. We see how he begins to prepare a delicious dish. A few minutes later, upon finishing, he shows it to everyone and asks them to try a bite. The little rats, upon realizing that, get irritated and yell if he's gone crazy or what, and that no one is going to eat infected meat. The people agree because they don't want to turn into zombies. I tells them not to worry and mentions that the meat of mutated creatures can be consumed as long as the infected parts are removed, and assures that it is a delicacy. Besides that, this meat is from a normal boar. John mentions that he understands that he wants to protect Juna, but playing with other people's lives is wrong. The little rats scream that she is right. Lanhays asks them to calm down and comments that this is a way to preserve meat. Curious, he asks if the previous chef was from the south. They say yes. Curious, they ask why. Tito Leones comments that preserving food there is difficult because the air is humid. That's why the locals preserve meat by spreading a lot of salt, soy sauce, and sugar on it. Once that's done, they place it in a cool spot to dry. Because of that, the meat turns black and shrinks, being able to last several months, although it produces a very strong smell. But when heated, it has a wonderful aroma. And with that said, without further ado, Tito Lee activates his MasterChef mode. A few minutes later, we see that he prepared a delicious dish. Everyone, upon seeing it, stares. And that's because it looked way too appetizing, and all of them had an uncontrollable urge to taste it. Shen, who noticed that, yells that if they do it, they will turn into zombies. On the other hand, John, with teary eyes, begs everyone to please not do it. Leon, already tired of hearing that chick's lies, we see that he forces her to take a bite of the boar meat. Everyone, upon realizing this, perplexed, wondered if she really was going to transform. On the other hand, we see that the chick was about to vomit. Leon, noticing that, of course wouldn't allow it. He asks Sweet Shrew to make her swallow it. We see how she covers the little rat's mouth, making her eat. The chick, upon realizing the texture and taste of the meat, is amazed and feels as if she were riding the boar itself, and it was so delicious that she even fell to the ground. On the other hand, Shen and his companions, seeing that she was acting strange, ask if she's okay. She was aware that if she said yes and admitted that it was delicious, everyone would turn against her for having lied. But there's no point in staying silent, because everyone ends up assuming that it was good, not only because she didn't transform, but also because she enjoyed it, as she didn't leave anything on the plate. Ashamed of their earlier behavior toward Yuna, they apologize. She says it's no problem, and that she knows they were only scared because they didn't want to turn into those monsters. Now that everything is clear, the people, anxious to try such a dish, ask Tito Langa for a bit. He tells them that he's already going to serve it, and while doing so, asks them not to forget to rate his dish. A few minutes later, we see that everyone was amazed by the food and even wanted seconds because it was so delicious. Keiiru, who hadn't forgotten that because of that chick everyone began to distrust their boss, comment that she should apologize. Everyone agrees. Even Shen was aware that there was no way out of this one. On the other hand, we see that John notices that everyone was against her, and as she couldn't stand such pressure, she begins to cry and, terrified, runs away. From there, Shen, who noticed that, gets furious with Tito Leon. Enraged, he yells that he's going to destroy him, challenging him to a fight, but only between the two of them, and no one could help. Ironically, that woman was the reason for it because he was very afraid of the beautiful shrew. On the other hand, Leon wasn't sure about fighting since he didn't have any combat skills. But suddenly, the system notifies that for having prepared a dish with a rare ingredient, he obtained as a reward the strike meat ability. And when he was about to see how it worked, Shen's friends hold him tightly and shout for their brother to take the chance and finish him off. Bian, extremely nervous, yells that he's a filthy cheater because he said help was forbidden. Shen replies that he doesn't care about that, and we see how he launches himself fiercely with a dagger to kill him. The waifus, noticing this, scream for him to stop, but he pays no attention to them. On the other hand, we see that Lindazu wasn't going to allow that idiot to hurt her boss again. When she was about to beat him up, Leon asks her not to worry because he'll be fine. She is surprised, but still obeys. Returning to Tito Leon, we see how he frees himself from the little rats with a big leap into the air. Having done that, he gives 3 powerful kicks to Shen, and they were so strong that they smash him abruptly against the ground. Enraged by this, Shen yells that he's going to destroy him, but upon trying to get up, he's shocked to find that he can't. And as if that wasn't enough, some parts of his body were already not moving. The little rat, scared out of her mind, asks her sister to help him. Juno obviously goes to see him, and upon noticing that he was frightened, tells him not to worry, because he just received a strong impact on the body, and his muscles are temporarily paralyzed, and he should recover soon. Back with Tito Langa, he tells us that he quickly reviewed how the strike meat ability worked and discovered that it's very useful to tenderize it. So he tried to use it in the fight, and luckily it worked. He didn't expect that his blows would now cause paralysis. On the other hand, we see that the little rats are scared to death upon seeing what he did to Shen. Leon, noticing that with a smirk, tells them they're next. Upon hearing that, terrified, they beg for forgiveness and run away like there's no tomorrow. Suddenly, Juno apologizes to Leon for everything her brother did and begs him to please stop. He says it's okay, as long as they don't mess with him again. On the other hand, we see that Shen is taken to the infirmary, and he, who heard everything, swears that when he recovers, he will destroy that idiot no matter the cost. Inside a kitchen, a woman is enjoying her meal. In the background, a young man watches with a tablet in his hands. With a victorious smile, the young man looks at his device. Multiple good rating notifications appear on the screen. A green progress bar fills almost a third of its total. Completely euphoric, the young man sees that he has obtained 30 good ratings. Thus, he thinks that he will complete the mission quickly. Suddenly, the green bar on the tablet begins to fail. It decreases drastically to the boy's surprise. Confused, the young man does not understand what happened, and wonders about the reason for the progress bar having suddenly shrunk. His soul almost leaves his body in fright. A small blue flame appears, telling the host not to worry, as it will check. The blue entity, now dressed in costume, explains that it has found the problem. Someone gave a 0-star rating following the rules. Shocked by the creature's revelation, the protagonist cannot believe it. 1 bad rating cancels out half of the good ones. With his face red with rage, the young man realizes the cruelty of the rule. Malicious reviews could prevent him from finishing. Desperate, he puts his hands on his head, not knowing what to do. He wonders who could have done something so low. In the distance, we see an apartment window at night. A skilled hand uses a digital pen on a tablet. She mercilessly selects the bad review option. Sitting at the desk, a young woman expresses her fury. Bad evaluation surround her concentrated figure. With a determined look, the woman declares that she has always manipulated men. No one has ever deceived her before. As she writes, she recalls a certain taste. This memory still sends a shiver through her body. Furious, the young woman slams the table hard. She finds the whole situation absolutely detestable and unacceptable. Her pen slips and falls to the wooden floor. A submissive voice calls out for her mistress nearby. Two men appear crawling towards the girl in the chair. Both call her respectfully mistress. Completely subservient, the young men express their desire for their mistress. They insistently ask for her affection. Surprised by the sounds, the woman turns quickly. Her eyes show a mixture of alertness and curiosity. With a sly smile, the female figure explains her preferences. She only likes obedient puppies to give them affection. Her eyes shine with an intense red and purple light. A hypnotic power seems to emanate from her penetrating gaze. Instantly, the two men are enveloped by a purple energy. Their minds seem to be dominated by the woman. Now completely controlled, the boys act like loyal dogs, their tongues hanging out, awaiting orders from their master. A soft noise escapes the girl's lips. She seems satisfied with the result of her demonstration of power. Disdainfully, she takes off her footwear, leaving the elegant boot aside. Soon, she places her feet on the boys, who are submissive. Sitting imposingly, the woman reflects on the men. She says that their brains are at the bottom, including Gao Xiaoliang. 0. Holding papers, probably the negative evaluations, she smiles malevolently. Whoever dares to disturb her will pay the price. Changing location, Gao Xiaoliang fishes calmly in a serene lake. On a calm and relaxing day for him. Suddenly, the float of his fishing rod sinks abruptly into the water. A fish seems to have taken the bait. Excited, the protagonist pulls the line hard. He shouts that he has finally caught a fish, expecting a big trophy. To his surprise, a gigantic fish jumps out of the water. Its dimensions are much larger than any ordinary fish. Gao Xiaoliang celebrates the size of his catch. He already begins to wonder whether he should roast it or steam it. Up close, the enormous fish reveals sharp teeth and a menacing look. It does not look like a friendly creature. Terrified, the boy realizes the terrible truth. What is on his line is, in fact, a dangerous mutant fish. Without warning, the aquatic creature quickly advances towards the fisherman. Its predatory instincts have been activated. In a panic, Gao Xiaoliang laments the apocalypse that gives no respite. He questions why mutations even cross species. Trying to escape, the young man runs to a nearby door. He tries desperately to open it, but it does not give. With more force, he pulls the handle, but to no avail. He wonders why the door simply does not open. Distressed, Gao Xiaoliang punches the door, begging Xiaobai to open it. He needs to escape from the monstrous fish that is approaching. A cold notification appears in his vision, leaving him in shock. 3 bad evaluations have reset his points and eliminated him. Horrified, the protagonist faces the fatal message from the system. The door remains locked, sealing his fate. A column of blue light descends from the sky towards him. It seems to be the final punishment announced by the system. Screaming in despair, Gao Xiaoliang reaches out his hand, accuses Lauer of being unfair and treacherous at that moment. With a violent impact, the giant fish hits the boy squarely. A scream of pain echoes through the forest. The blow throws Gao Xiaoliang into the air before falling. The strength of the creature is overwhelming and brutal. Fallen to the ground, under the weight of the fish, he can barely breathe. His body feels heavy, and he is short of breath. Suddenly, Gao Xiaoliang wakes up screaming in his bed. All the terror he experienced was nothing more than a nightmare. Waking up startled, Gao Xiaoliang murmurs about the nightmare. He notices Xiaobai sleeping peacefully next to him in bed. Up close, Xiaobai rests serenely. A small golden bell adorns her collar as she sleeps. Jumping out of bed, the boy becomes irritated upon seeing the girl there. He asks why she invaded his room again. Sleepily, Xiaobai rubs her eyes. Gao Xiaoliang scolds her, reminding her that his bed is downstairs and threatens to cut off her snacks. The sound of knocking from outside interrupts the discussion. The young man wonders who is making such a commotion so early in the morning. Opening the top window of the vehicle, the protagonist peeks out. Xiaobai, still sleepy, watches from behind him. Outside, a green Jeep is parked near an industrial area. Someone is knocking insistently on the vehicle's bodywork. Inside the trunk of the Jeep, a young woman with brown hair watches. A voice orders her to put something on the ground. A woman with long dark hair and blue streaks appears determinedly. She seems to be adjusting some equipment firmly. 0. Completely confused, Gao Xiaoliang does not understand the situation. Several question marks float around him. Now composed and dressed, the cook walks towards the dark-haired woman. Xiaobai follows closely behind him, and he greets her. Both the young women, the dark-haired one, and Yin Hong in the jeep, greet Chef Gao. They ask if he was able to rest well. Yuejie, the woman with blue locks, points to the boy's dark circles. She asks if he didn't get a good night's sleep. With an exhausted expression, the protagonist confirms that he had nightmares all night. That's why the dark circles are inevitable. Curious about the movement, Gao Xiaoliang asks the group. He wants to know if they are getting ready to leave. Yuejie explains that Yin Hong's father stored a lot of supplies in Wandashan, items like food and weapons, which they intend to get. Yin Hong, from inside the car, adds that her father accumulated a lot at the beginning. Unfortunately, he couldn't use any of them in the end. Seriously, Yuejie admits that her mistake the day before almost cost the base important supplies. She feels guilty. To make up for it, she wants to use the supplies from Wandashan. She hopes to redeem her mistake in front of the group. 0. Two boys intervene in Yuejie's defense, shouting that it wasn't her fault. They claim that she didn't act on purpose. Looking at Yin Hong, Yuejie comments on her sensitivity. He says she is moved even before tears fall, an old habit. Surprised by the mention of the place, the young cook repeats the name. Wandashan, he thinks, scratching his head. Pondering, Gao Xiaoliang recalls that Wandashan was a resort. Any supplies there would have already been looted by others. Yuejie's two defenders are irritated by the boy's comment. They ask if he is insinuating something or doubting Yin Hong. Inside the jeep, the blonde man yells at Gao Xiaoliang. He accuses him of bothering Yin Hong and questions his masculinity. Calmly, the protagonist notices the blonde's energy. He comments that he seems to be well recovered from their last encounter. Snapping his fingers, Gao Xiaoliang and Xiaobai prepare themselves. He asks if the boys would like to loosen their bones again. Fearful, the blonde man shrinks in the car seat. His expression clearly shows nervousness at the threat. Yin Hong intervenes, addressing Chef Gao. He suggests that, if he is suspicious, he can accompany them on the expedition. Thoughtfully, the young cook considers Yin Hong's proposal. His look shows that he is assessing the situation. Yuejie, with a serious look, questions Gao Xiaoliang directly. She wants to know if he really trusts Yin Hong's intentions. She goes on to explain the urgency for seasoning in the base. Without sodium, the elderly and children won't be able to handle it for long. Determined, Yuejie states that she will try, even if there are doubts about the veracity of the information. Any hope is worth the effort. Observing Yuejie's determination, the protagonist seems to understand her motivation. A slight sparkle appears in his eyes. With a small smile, Gao Xiaoliang thinks to himself. He considers Yuejie's attitude somewhat naive, but admirable. Resolute, the young man informs her that he will go along since it is not lunchtime. That way, he can accompany Yuejie in the search. Yin Hong smiles, satisfied, and mentions the amount of items. She thinks that Chef Gao easily fell for her bait. Two other girls approach, asking to go with Yuejie. They argue that the full moon makes the night more dangerous. Yuejie smiles to reassure them, promising to return before nightfall. She asks them to lock the gates tightly and not let anyone in. 0. Worried, the two girls hesitate, starting to say, "But," their faces show apprehension for the leader. Placing her hand on her own shoulder, Yuejie comforts them, assures them that everything will be fine and that they should relax. Winking at the girls, Gao Xiaoliang takes responsibility, tells them to take care of the others as he will protect Yuejie. Relieved by Chef Gao's presence, the two smile. They say that with him by their side, they can rest easy. Yuejie teases the boy, remembering when he asked for help with his head down. He justifies that he avoided looking at what he shouldn't have. Curious, the girls ask about what he shouldn't have seen. Gao Xiaoliang begins to stutter an answer. Yuejie quickly covers the cook's mouth, preventing him from speaking. The other two are even more curious about the secret. While Yuejie holds him, the boy tries to explain himself, asking them not to insist. The situation becomes comical and embarrassing. Watching the scene from afar, Yin Hong smiles mischievously. He wonders how long their joy will last. The two vehicles, the Jeep and a larger truck, follow a narrow road. Steep cliffs border the dangerous path. 0. Staggering creatures appear crawling on the side of the road. The threat of the undead is present along the way. Sitting in the truck, Gao Xiaoliang reflects. He thinks that the undead act in cycles, becoming more agitated during the full moon. Today, being the 15th, a horde of walkers gathers near the river. The number of creatures has actually increased. Curiously, Xiaobai seems immune to the lunar agitation of the zombies. The girl points to something, emitting a peculiar sound. Suddenly, the cook shows surprise. His eyes widen, indicating an unexpected event on the road ahead. Suddenly, an unidentified object appears on the road. It seems to be a piece of rock or some falling debris. With a loud screech, the truck's tire skids. The driver brakes abruptly to avoid the imminent collision. Inside the Jeep, Yueji questions the sudden stop. She wonders what could have happened for them to brake so suddenly. Stopped, they observe the road ahead. A landslide completely blocks the passage of the vehicles. Outside the truck, Gao Xiaoliang assesses the damage. The rain has destroyed the road, forcing them to stop and continue on foot. Yin Hong points to the path, calculating the distance. Fortunately, their destination is only a half-hour walk away. Yuejie takes command, instructing the group. He orders them to take up their weapons and keep quiet so as not to attract the wanderers. A dense forest stretches out before them. The blue sky contrasts with the green tops of the tall trees. Leading the group, Yuejie advances through the woods. Gao Xiaoliang and Xiaobai follow close behind, alert to the hostile environment. Further behind, the blonde man accompanies Yin Hong. Both walk with serious expressions along the forest trail. Two other members of the group also follow through the woods. Their faces show caution for the dangers of the region. Buzzing through the air, a solitary bee appears. Its erratic flight draws attention amidst the silence of the forest. Unexpectedly, the insect lands on Yin Hong's face. The girl seems not to notice the small creature on her cheek. In an instant, Yin Hong lets out a sharp scream. Her eyes widen in terror at the presence of the bee. Yueji turns around, scolding the noise. She warns that the screams could attract the undead to their location. Desperate, the girl continues screaming about the insect. She claims that a bee stung her, causing a great commotion. Yueji quickly acts to silence the commotion. She slaps, trying to hit the small flying insect. With the impact, the bee falls to the ground, stunned. The small insect seems to have been neutralized by the quick action. Yueji stares at Gao Xiaoliang, minimizing the incident. She questions the reason for so much fear because of a simple bee. The three boys in the group watch the scene, open-mouthed. Their expressions show a mixture of surprise and fear. Defending Yin Hong, the blonde man supports her. He apologizes, saying that she was just scared, like many girls. Yuejie responds, also claiming that she is a woman and is not afraid. A boy comments that she is stronger than a man. Revealing Yuejie's past, the blonde tells stories. He describes how she was mistaken for a boy when she was a child. Embarrassed by the memories exposed, Yuejie blushes. The tough warrior shows a more sensitive and shy side. Gao Xiaoliang takes out a spray bottle, spraying it at them. The blonde boy reacts scared, asking what it is. Showing the bottle, he explains that it is repellent. Due to the season, there are many mosquitoes. That's why he brought it. With a mischievous smile, he sprays it at the others. He jokes that the spray also cures bad breath, and they complain about the smell. Watching the joke, Yuejie can't contain her laughter. The scene of the boys running away from the spray amuses her greatly. After the distraction, Gao Xiaoliang looks around, intrigued. He notices that something, or someone, seems to be missing from the group. With his head spinning in confusion, the young man searches. He wonders about the whereabouts of Xiaobai, who has disappeared. A rustling coming from the nearby bushes catches his attention. Something moves among the leaves, making a suspicious sound. Leaping out of the bushes, Xiaobai triumphantly reappears. She carries with her a huge beehive, surprising everyone. The hive is prominently displayed, large and full of combs. Golden honey drips, indicating a bountiful bounty. Yuejie gapes at the unexpected sight. She tries to process what Xiaobai has just said. Bring from the forest. Shocked, the blonde man and Yin Hong watch the scene. Their expressions are of pure astonishment at the girl's audacity. The other two boys shout, identifying the object. They exclaim that it is a beehive, fearing the bees. With a radiant smile, Xiaobai embraces the hive. She seems very pleased with her recent and sweet acquisition. Details of the hive show its complex structure. The hexagonal combs are filled with shiny and appetizing honey. Her eyes shine brightly with anticipation. The desire for the honey is evident in her hungry and happy expression. A trickle of saliva runs from her open mouth. The sight and smell of the honey provoke a greedy reaction in the girl. The boys watch, confused by her intention. They wonder what Xiaobai intends to do with the hive. The blonde man and Yin Hong speculate in disbelief. They fear that the girl is thinking of devouring the entire hive. Without hesitation, Xiaobai opens her mouth and prepares herself. She is about to take a huge bite straight out of the hive. Terrified, the two companions scream desperately. They ask for someone to stop Xiaobai before it is too late. Gao Xiaoliang intervenes, shouting at the girl to stop. He tries to stop her from eating the hive and attracting bees. Ignoring the warnings, the young girl bites into the structure with relish. She delights in the honey, oblivious to the danger or the mess. Screams echo through the dense forest. The high-pitched sound scares the birds, signaling a new panic in the group. Finally, the group reaches the imposing mountain. At its base, a dark tunnel entrance awaits them. In front of the tunnel, Yin Hong asks if this is the place. Yuejie confirms with a serious look, that is indeed the place. Yin Hong explains that the tunnel collapsed halfway. Her father used to say that dangerous places are safer for hiding places. With her hand on her cheek, the girl complains of pain. The bee sting still causes her considerable discomfort. Two young men with welts on their faces blame Xiaobai. One of them would like to confront her if he had the courage. Yuejie, determined, orders them to enter. Her determined expression leaves no room for hesitation at the moment. Gao Xiaoliang intervenes, asking them to wait. The leader of the group turns around, questioning the sudden interruption. The blonde man, irritated, asks what Gao Xiaoliang wants, points to the cook, demanding an explanation. It's very dark inside, the protagonist explains. Going in blindly would be too risky without preparation. Suddenly, Gao Xiaoliang throws something. A luminous object flies into the darkness of the tunnel. A light stick lands on the floor of the tunnel. Its spark briefly illuminates the entrance to the underground passage. Metallic noises echo from the dark interior. The sound of clang, clang indicates movement or objects falling. Watch out, something is coming, warns Gao Xiaoliang. The other two boys are startled by the sudden warning. From the darkness, enormous moths appear flying. The giant insects advance quickly toward the group. They are moths, shouts one of the boys. He and his companion try to protect themselves from the flying insects. Xiaobai lets out a shrill scream of terror. The sight of the moths leaves her completely terrified and paralyzed. Agilely, Gao Xiaoliang throws off his coat. The piece of clothing flies towards the nearby bushes. He wonders why he is so afraid. After all, they are just a few moths. They don't look that dangerous. Get out of there, the protagonist comments. He seems to be trying to use the garment as a net. Hidden behind a tree, Xiaobai cries softly. The girl is visibly terrified by the situation. Yin Hong watches Xiaobai with a calculating look. He thinks that, although strong, the girl seems unstable, an easy target. Maybe Xiaobai is like this because of the trauma of the bee, suggests Yin Hong. He advises not to force her while Gao carries her. Yuejie looks at the sky, noticing the time. She says that it is already getting late to continue standing there. They cannot waste any more time, warns the leader. At night, the undead will become even more dangerous. Xiaobai continues to grumble, clinging to Gao Xiaoliang. Fear still dominates the silver-haired girl. Okay, don't run away, Gao Xiaoliang tells the girl. He instructs her to wait for them right there. The boy carefully places her near some bushes. Xiaobai seems reluctant to be alone in the place. Huddled among the plants, the girl trembles. The sound of her soft crying can still be heard nearby. Her teary eyes show pure terror. Xiaobai hugs her knees, seeking some comfort in the isolation. Carrying a flashlight, Gao Xiaoliang enters the tunnel. The darkness of the passage is dense and intimidating. A beam of light cuts through the gloom of the place. The tunnel reveals itself to be long and with arched structures on the ceiling. Gao Xiaoliang and Yuejie lead the way. Exploration. The blonde and Yin Hong follow them, apprehensive about the environment. The protagonist comments in surprise about the depth. He had no idea the tunnel would be so long. Yuejie asks how long it will take until they get there. Impatience begins to appear in the fighter's voice. "It's not far. We're almost there," answers Yin Hong. An enigmatic smile appears on her face. Suspicious, Gao Xiaoliang observes her reaction. Something in the girl's attitude doesn't seem entirely right. In the distance, humanoid figures appear in the darkness. The silhouettes move slowly towards them. "There are people there," exclaims Gao Xiaoliang in alert. He points the flashlight in the direction of the mysterious figures. His flashlight illuminates the figures, revealing them. Yuejie, at his side, shows surprise at the discovery. "Who are they?" "Are they zombies?" asks Yuejie nervously. She quickly raises her rifle, ready to shoot. A blue-haired man, tied up, smiles ironically. "What a coincidence to find them there," he comments. "We meet again, beautiful Gu," the man says with mockery. A sinister blue aura surrounds him intensely. The group members' weapons are at the ready. Yuejie keeps her rifle pointed at the threat. "How, Jian?" Yuejie exclaims, recognizing the man. The surprise in her voice is evident and worrying. "How are you here?" asks the group leader. Her defensive posture does not diminish in the face of the acquaintance. From behind, one of the boys advances stealthily. He raises his rifle, aiming at Yuejie's back. A direct blow hits the warrior's head. She screams in pain at the sudden and unexpected impact. Yuejie falls to the ground, dropping her weapon. The assailant's foot is visible next to the unconscious combatant. Cheng Nan and Cheng Bei immobilize the fallen leader. Gao Xiaoliang shouts their names, questioning their actions. Screaming, Gao Xiaoliang orders no one to move. He is completely shocked by the betrayal of his people. Fallen, Yuejie regrets her distraction. A surprise attack has left her completely vulnerable to the enemies. Yin Hong, holding the hostage, warns the protagonist not to move. Yuejie is just an ordinary person. Surprised, the leader recognizes Gu Cheng. Her look shows her disbelief at the current situation. "That woman again," thinks Gao Xiaoliang. Yin Hong's presence there only complicates everything even more. "It is better to let her go," threatens the boy, "or else." Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet gives way completely. Then, the cook finds himself trapped. A metal cage rises from the ground, imprisoning him there. "Or else what?" asks the blonde with a smile. The traitor seems to be enjoying the misfortune of others. Mockingly, the boy reveals that the cage is filled with explosives. If the shots don't get him, the bomb will. An explosive device is attached to the fence. The danger for Gao Xiaoliang is imminent and frightening. Hao Jian remembers that the young man ran him over. He didn't expect him to fall into his hands so quickly. "Good job," praises the blue-haired man. He seems pleased with his chosen partner. "All thanks to Yin Hong's good idea," says Cheng Nan. The girl smiles, proud of her plan. Trapped, Gao Xiaoliang laments the limitations of his system. Not being able to charge it is a serious problem. Without hesitation, the blonde presses the detonator. A loud explosion echoes through the dark tunnel. In his imagination, the protagonist sees himself triumphant. A chibi version of him poses confidently. In a delirium, he repeatedly strikes the traitor. The rage of the moment fuels this comical scene. "Damn you!" shouts Gao Xiaoliang furiously. The frustration of being trapped is enormous for the cook. Yuejie questions Cheng Nan's sanity. He replies that he is not crazy, just tired of her. "What did you say?" asks the incredulous fighter. The words of her former companion shock her. In a memory, young Yuejie fought in the orphanage. To avoid being bullied, she faced other boys. Even when sharing food, he was looked down upon. While she was called sister, he was a coward. Cheng Nan recalls his past with bitterness. The feeling of inferiority consumed him for years. He screams his hatred for the former leader. Because of her, he always lived in her shadow, without standing out. Tears stream down Yuejie's face. Gu Cheng's betrayal hurts her deeply in the heart. Without parents, she considered him family. Protecting him was her only goal. She never imagined so much resentment. How ungrateful, thinks Gao Xiaoliang in the cage. He depended on her to live, and now he complains. "Shut up, you disgusting cook," the blonde man shouts. How dare a simple cook confront him? "This guy is quite problematic," concludes the protagonist. The traitor's instability is evident. "He preferred to look for others instead of waiting for me," accuses Changnan. Yinhong smiles mischievously. "You don't deserve to be my sister," the boy says. He points the gun at Yuejie, determined. "It's her loss for not seeing her worth," says Hao Jian. He, however, recognizes the blonde's potential. As soon as they return, he will take over the plant. He will become the real boss of the place, plans the blue-haired man. With their union, they will create the strongest base. Changnan thanks his new ally for the opportunity. "What, will he take them to the plant?" asks Yuejie. The concern is immediately evident in her voice. "Hao Jian is dangerous," warns the fallen leader. "Taking them there will mean ruin for everyone." "Shut up!" shouts the blue-haired man. He slaps his old rival in the face. "How about being betrayed by your little brother is not good?" mocks Hao Jian. His smile is cruel and victorious. "Women should behave as such," says the villain. "Trying to surpass men is overestimating yourself." Yin Hong observes the scene with a cold gaze. Her eyes show interest in what is unfolding. However, the warrior still maintains her firm posture. Determination does not abandon her easily. "Making a strong woman beg would be great," says Hao Jian. Sadistic pleasure shines in her eyes. "Wait a minute," Yin Hong suddenly intervenes. She seems to have a new idea for the situation. Since she is Cheng's sister, she will give it a chance. A proposal emerges from the lips of the treacherous blonde. She knows of a safe in the plant, a secret that Yuejie has always kept very carefully. If she hands over the safe, Jian will spare her. Not even the others in the plant would be harmed. "A safe," repeats Yuejie thoughtfully. Yin Hong's proposal takes her by surprise at that moment. At the plant, they found an old safe, dangerous, with an explosive trap she had thrown away. So that was her goal, the fighter realizes. Yin Hong's motivation becomes clear. "Do you think I will still believe you?" questions Yuejie. The distrust is total in the warrior. Impatient, Yin Hong shows her displeasure with the former leader's delay. Changnan shouts that they don't need her. Everything in the plant will soon be theirs. Yuejie, in turn, mocks the traitor's naivety. Even though she is injured, the former commander decides to offer Yin Hong some advice, despite the betrayal she suffered. Yuejie warns that, in this chaotic world, depending on men like a parasite will only bring a tragic end. Defiant, she questions the trust in someone like Changnan, capable of betraying even his own family. Immediately, the blonde boy reaffirms his total loyalty to his partner. He accuses the former leader of trying to sow discord. The warrior observes the pair's reaction attentively, maintaining her firm and determined gaze. With disdain, the fair-haired woman denies being a parasite. Her expression is one of pure superiority. For Yin Hong, men are just disposable tools. She considers her former partner the true pathetic figure. The blonde describes Yuejie as someone who is too soft-hearted. Despite her strong appearance, she is easily exploited. Provocative, the traitor turns to the prisoner. He insinuates about her feelings for Gao Xiaoliang. Struck by the unexpected question, the fighter's face acquires a slight blush of surprise. With a mocking smile, Yin Hong boasts of his influence. He says he could have the cook whenever he wanted. Changnan's ally declares maliciously that everything Yuejie values most will, in the end, belong to her. Outraged by the other's words, the warrior shouts that she does not believe that. Not everyone is driven by pure self-interest. The golden-haired woman then proposes a risky bet. If Yuejie loses, the safe will be hers. Confused by the new proposal, the blonde traitor asks about his partner's plans for the situation. Ignoring Changnan, the girl approaches the cage. The protagonist observes her movements curiously. Using a seductive voice, she compliments the boy's cooking. She expresses her desire to taste his delicacies again. Quite surprised, the young cook responds. He imagined that she had not enjoyed his previous dish. The blonde smiles sweetly, completely denying the assumption made by the caged boy. Eyes shining brightly, she makes a tempting offer. If he leaves Uegie, he can continue cooking. A strange, hypnotic power emanates from the woman's eyes. A clear attempt to mentally control the young man. The boy's eyes reflect the glow of the spell. He seems to be about to succumb to her control. Suddenly, the cook's expression changes drastically. The hypnotic effect seems to have been broken. Confident in her power, the blonde explains her ability. She exploits weaknesses to invade and control minds. With an intense and penetrating gaze, she orders Gao Xiaoliang to become her prisoner immediately. The protagonist, displaying a now blank expression, responds that she is underestimating him too much. Unexpectedly, Uegie smiles victoriously as Yin Hong is struck by a sudden electric shock. Quite annoyed, the chef accuses the blonde. He claims that she was the one who gave his food a bad review. Showing her a form full of negative reviews, he reveals that he found the paper on her doorstep. The traitor is completely shocked by the revelation. The chef did not succumb to her mind control. She wonders how someone with such a simple appearance can possess such a strong will. Desperate, Changnan shouts that they cannot spare the boy under any circumstances. He must be eliminated today. Furious, the man in the yellow coat screams loudly. He worries that they don't know what the other man's power is and that he is very calculating. With his face red, the blonde man says that there can only be one Esper in the base and that Esper is him. While the blonde man is distracted, the woman with a gun to his head reacts and quickly turns the tables, immobilizing him. Next, we see another hostage being grabbed by the arms, and he is clearly terrified by the situation. With a quick movement, the same woman throws him and the hostage is thrown away with force. Watching the scene, the blonde man is completely shocked because he did not expect this turn of events from the woman. Soon after, the blonde man receives a powerful blow and is thrown back while screaming in pain. During the confusion, a remote control flies through the air and the device ends up falling to the ground a little far from them. Another woman, who was watching everything, screams in despair and asks them not to let the fighter take the remote under any circumstances. The fighter and the blonde quickly throw themselves to the ground and both try to reach the remote control at the same time. With wide eyes, the fighter stretches her arm with all her strength and she seems determined to grab the control. Suddenly, the blonde's face is hit hard and he grimaces in pain from the impact of the blow. In an agile movement, the girl spins in the air and she manages to knock her opponent down with an impressive blow. Falling to the ground, the man in the yellow coat hits hard and the fighter finishes the move skillfully. With a serious look, the girl steps on the blonde's hand and he looks at her with an expression of surprise and pain. Soon after, a blade is seen and she is grabbing it for a fight. Holding the control, the fighter threatens the blonde and he tells everyone to drop their weapons or he will get hurt. Behind the bars, a black-haired boy smiles, and he praises the girl's performance, saying that it was very well done. With a confident smile, the same boy seems to think that blood pressure does not affect him, and that they will win. Frightened, the blonde begs the girl not to do anything, and he says that she can't hurt him because he is her brother. Angry, the fighter shouts that he is a white-eyed wolf, and that from today on, she is no longer his sister. Desperate, the blonde asks for help from Jian Gei and Hong Hong, who are watching the situation from afar. Frowning, the long-haired girl calls him useless and says that he can't do anything right. With a mocking smile, the blue-haired man asks if she thinks she can threaten him, and he says that she can hurt her brother if she wants to. Completely shocked, the blonde looks at Hao Jian, and he can't believe what he just heard. Turning around, the woman with the ponytail calls the blue-haired man despicable, and she looks furious. Immediately, a trail of web cuts through the air, passing by the fighter's quick and precise movement. Meanwhile, a tied and gagged girl appears, and she is holding a gun with a fearful expression. Suddenly, the tied-up girl is hit by something, and she screams as she is dragged away. Surprised, the black-haired boy watches the scene and wonders what is happening there. Turning her face, the woman with blonde hair and a yellow blouse seems to notice something and becomes alert. Likewise, the fighter with the ponytail also notices the movement, and she looks carefully in the same direction. Confused, the blue-haired man with the tied-up body asks what that was, and he seems not to understand what is happening. Inside a dark tunnel, strange sounds begin to echo, and they indicate that something is approaching quickly. Observing the tunnel, A group of people wonder if it is Hong Shi, and they comment that it seems to be something very large. Angry, the blue-haired man grabs a gun and he shouts that no matter what it is, he will turn it into a sieve. Soon after, the same man points the gun at the tunnel and he orders everyone to shoot hard. Immediately, several people begin firing their weapons in the direction of the dark tunnel and many bullets fly through the air. Further back, we see a woman with a rifle and a man in a red mask also shooting non-stop. The dark tunnel is lit up by the gunshots and the bullets seem to hit something that moves quickly in the darkness. After the shots, a thick cloud of smoke and dust rises from the tunnel and several bat-like silhouettes appear. A man in an orange cap comments that there is no more sound, and another next to him says that he must have already been defeated. Suddenly, several sharp claws emerge from the smoke and move at high speed towards the shooters. In an instant, several people are hit by the claws, and they scream in pain as blood spurts. Amidst the chaos, a giant creature with glowing red eyes appears, and it stares at the survivors with fury. Slowly, the smoke dissipates and reveals a monstrous spider with huge claws and a frightening aura. Two masked women look at the creature, and one of them says that it is a mutant spider. With his eyes wide with terror, the blue-haired man screams in terror when he sees the size of the spider. One of the masked women comments that the spider is scary and asks if a mutant spider can grow so big. Behind bars, the black-haired boy shouts that it is not a common mutant animal but a devourer. He explains that, unlike other mutants, devourers do not only eat humans, but also hunt zombies and other beings. In addition, they absorb the power of their prey to become stronger and as if they were cultivating something. Thoughtfully, the black-haired boy remembers that the devourer has not appeared the last few times and wonders why it appeared earlier. Looking at the spider, he wonders if this could be a chain effect caused by its link system. The giant creature crawls slowly, and a person with a gun appears to be trapped in its webs. With eyes wide with terror, the person trapped in the web begs for help and is clearly terrified. With its multiple red eyes glowing brightly, the spider advances towards the people, and it looks hungry. The two masked women and the man in the red hood look at the creature, and they are completely terrified. Quickly, the monstrous spider jumps and moves at high speed towards the remaining survivors. Desperate, the blue-haired man shouts loudly for everyone to run, and he seems very scared. Looking back, the blonde man sees the fighter standing still, and he seems worried about her. Then, the man in the yellow coat turns and he faces the girl who is still in the same place. With a scream of "Go to hell!" the woman with the ponytail attacks the blonde with an electric blow and throws him away. Falling to the ground, the girl is vulnerable, and she is right in the sights of the giant spider that is approaching. The claws of the monstrous creature advance quickly, and they are about to hit the fallen fighter. With an expression of panic, the woman with the ponytail looks at the spider, and she realizes the imminent danger. Soon after, the giant creature appears in front of her, and the fighter screams in terror as she faces death. Suddenly, the black-haired boy appears and uses an equipment card with a fist symbol. Grabbing the bars of the cell, the boy uses his strength, and a pink aura begins to emanate from his hands. With an intense glow, a message of "super strength granted" appears, and the boy prepares to act. With a bang, the bars of the cell are ripped off, and a wave of pink energy spreads throughout the place. Quickly, the black-haired boy grabs the fighter and drags her away from the spider's claws. Next to the girl, the hero faces the giant creature, while the other survivors desperately run to escape. Suddenly, the monstrous spider launches several sharp webs, and they fly at high speed towards the people. One of the masked women is hit by the web, and she is trapped and immobilized by the sticky goo. Soon after, the man in the red hood is also caught, and he screams as he is wrapped in the spider's webs. Trapped in the webs, the two scream for help, and the spider begins to pull them into its hungry mouth. Running, the blue-haired man warns that the exit is just ahead, and the blonde follows closely behind. In the distance, a bright light shines, and it indicates the exit of the dark and dangerous tunnel where they are. Suddenly, a web is thrown in the direction of the blue-haired man, and he looks back, terrified by the attack. At the last second, a huge web blocks the exit of the tunnel, and the blue-haired man curses in rage. With his eyes wide open, the same man screams in terror when he sees the exit completely blocked by the spider's web. The blonde and the blue-haired man turn, and they face the wall of web that prevents their escape. Right behind, the giant spider approaches quickly, and it seems determined not to let anyone escape. Desperate, the blonde asks what they are going to do, and the blue-haired man says there is no way out. Suddenly, the blonde-haired girl points to a manhole, and she says she can take them out, but someone needs to distract the spider. One of the hostages says that distracting the spider would be suicide, and another asks who would do such a crazy thing. With a serious expression, the blonde-haired woman looks at the hostages, and she seems to be thinking of a plan. With a fake smile, one of the hostages says that Hong Hong was good to them, and that she would not send them to their deaths. With a slight smile, the blonde-haired woman answers, "Of course," and she seems to have made an important decision. With a superior look, she reminds them that they said they were willing to sacrifice their lives for her. Suddenly, the woman's eye shines with an intense and hypnotic pink light that spreads. The two boys are surrounded by a pink aura, and their eyes also begin to shine intensely. Completely dominated, they state that for Hong Kong, they would do absolutely anything she asked. Then the two men begin to walk slowly towards the monstrous creature that is approaching. Bravely, they stand before the giant and bloody predator without showing any fear. In an act of apparent sacrifice, the two raise their arms as if they were offering themselves to the creature. The monstrous creature, with its blood-stained fangs, stares at the two men, ready to attack. Without hesitation, the predator launches its sticky webs toward the two boys who are waiting for the attack. The monster then quickly advances to devour its new victims, who have been hypnotized by the woman. The monster finishes its meal, and a large pool of red liquid remains on the ground. Next to the manhole, the blue-haired man shouts excitedly that he has managed to open the passage. The blonde man urges the others to get out of there quickly, because the predator is approaching in the darkness. However, the blonde boy notices something unusual on the ground and looks in surprise at some packages. He identifies the objects as explosives that were left behind during the construction of the tunnel. With a cold look, he warns Gu Yue not to blame him for the injustice he is about to commit. The traitor points his gun at the artifacts and says that the two troublemakers will die there with the monster. With a well-aimed shot, he lights the fuse of the explosives, which immediately starts to give off sparks. The giant predator seems to notice the imminent danger and looks in surprise at the object on the ground. Without hesitation, the blonde man jumps into the manhole while the creature watches everything closely. The man runs through the darkness of the tunnel while the giant predator watches his escape closely. On the ground, the explosives with the lit fuse release sparks and are about to detonate. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurs and a fireball forms at the site. The detonation continues, and the flames spread quickly throughout the dark tunnel. Outside, a girl with white hair and cat ears watches the smoke and fire. Frightened by the noise of the explosion, the girl takes cover behind some nearby bushes. She looks up with an expression of surprise and astonishment at the scene she witnessed. From afar, the girl observes the destroyed tunnel and the smoke that is still coming out of the place. Fire and dense smoke. They continue to leave the entrance of the tunnel that was partially destroyed. Then, from the smoke, we see the girl running after the explosion happened, and we see that she was scared by the apparition. The girl with cat ears screams, scared while some golden objects fly around them. Up close, we see her with an expression of discontent and looking irritated by something. A memory appears, and we see the protagonist running with a shiny pot while another person falls. In another memory, the boy is on the ground reaching for a luminous object while a girl screams. The girl with white hair closes her eyes with a serious expression and seems very determined. Her eyes open and now glow bright red as she focuses firmly on something. Suddenly, the girl starts to run desperately and screams as she quickly flees the place. Inside the tunnel, everything is on fire and destroyed after the huge explosion that happened there. The protagonist appears with a bruised face and one of his eyes slightly open, looking confused. He holds his head and wonders what happened, and if that was really an explosion. With his eyes shining, He wonders why his body cannot move at all. Suddenly, the young man finds himself trapped in a huge spider web with fire burning just below. Looking at his web-covered hand, he complains that it is too sticky and disgusting. With a confident smile, the young man states that a simple spider web will not be able to stop him. Quickly, some sharp blades emerge from his wrists, ready to cut anything. Like a cicada shedding its skin, he frees himself from his clothes trapped in the web and escapes. Now free, the protagonist kneels near the fire that burns intensely on the floor. Looking up, he notices that there are many spider webs spread all over the ceiling. The young man then notices a giant cocoon and thinks that it must be Hao Jian's subordinate who was captured. In detail, we see the figure completely wrapped in thick webs and looking like a mummy. Thoughtfully, he concludes that the creature used those people as a food reserve, and that the webs lessened the power of the explosion. The young man then finds Gu Yue unconscious on the floor and shouts her name, worried for her. He quickly runs to the girl and asks if she is okay and how she feels at the moment. He holds her and shouts for her to wake up and come out of that unconscious state. Suddenly, a strange smoke appears, and the fire that was burning in the place begins to go out. With difficulty breathing, the protagonist realizes that the air is getting thinner in there. Worried, he thinks that if they continue like this, they will soon run out of oxygen and need to get out quickly. The young man then picks up his sword from the ground and prepares to make his way and escape from the tunnel. With a powerful blow, he cuts the spider webs that were blocking the way out. The sharp sword easily cuts through the webs, and a bright light appears on the other side of the barrier. Surprisingly, the boy realizes that the webs are very resistant, and he cannot cut them at all. Looking to the side, the young man notices a strange spike trap on the ground nearby. Suddenly, a smile appears on his face, and he exclaims excitedly that he has a brilliant idea. "Thanks for watching." He decides to use the explosives he found, placing them on the thick spider web. While protecting the unconscious girl, he throws the bomb at the barricade. A massive explosion erupts, engulfing the entire area in flames. The powerful blast clears the webs, revealing a bright light and a clear path forward. Bruised but victorious, the young man smiles, knowing his plan was a success. As the smoke settles, burning pieces of debris start falling from the ceiling. Suddenly, a strange sound from above makes him look up with a worried expression. He sees several large, pulsating cocoons hanging from the remaining webs. One of the cocoons rips open, revealing a bloodied person trapped inside. A woman's body falls from the torn cocoon, hitting the ground with a thud. Two figures, the one who just fell in another, slowly get to their feet. The woman with short hair begins to twitch, her movements looking unnatural. Peeking from behind cover, the young man wonders if the people are still alive. He realizes they were infected by a virus in the cocoons and have become zombies with glowing red eyes. The two newly formed zombies stagger forward to attack. Without hesitation, the protagonist prepares himself for another fight. He lunges forward, moving in a blur to intercept the undead creatures. He quickly grabs one of the zombies, twisting its body with his strength. The zombie is slammed to the ground, its body contorted and defeated. After finishing the fight, he dusts his hands off, satisfied with the outcome. However, the other zombie begins to twist unnaturally, its body contorting violently. The hero watches in horror as he realizes it has mutated into an abnormal type. Its limbs bend backward at an impossible angle, preparing for a new form of attack. The creature scurries across the ceiling, moving like a grotesque, upside-down spider. While holding his companion, the young man panics, knowing his old tricks will not work. He worries that the tunnel will not hold up much longer after suffering 2 explosions. Looking back at the growing horde, he feels the heavy burden of the situation. Frustrated, he wishes his companions Xiaobai were there to help him in this critical moment. In his mind, he imagines her effortlessly sending the zombies flying with one punch. Shaking off the thought, he decides to deal with the undead first before finding an exit. He gently places the unconscious girl down against a rock wall to keep her safe. The hero activates his storage space, a blue light glowing as he retrieves an item. With a determined shout, he pulls a large, yellow container from his inventory. The mutated zombie with glowing red eyes continues its relentless advance toward him. He then hurls the container with all his strength, directly at the approaching creature. A thick, yellow, sticky liquid splashes out, covering the ground in the zombie's path. The lead creature slips and falls, getting completely immobilized by the goo. Soon, the other zombies are also trapped, piled together in the sticky mess. Seeing his opportunity, the young man delivers a powerful kick to the tunnel's ceiling. Large rocks break loose and begin to rain down. As the tunnel crumbles, the hero braces himself against the shower of rocks and dust. He sits down with a smirk, remarking that he has prepared a proper grave for the zombies. However, the collapse intensifies, and he realizes the tunnel is caving in much faster than planned. Suddenly, a silhouette of a young woman appears in the light from the hole above. Before he can react, something strikes him hard across the face, catching him by surprise. The impact leaves him dazed, and he momentarily sees a strange, dizzying vision of the cat-eared girl. He quickly recovers and jumps back into a defensive stance, demanding to know who ambushed him. It is his companion Xiaobai, who has finally arrived. He calls out her name in surprise and relief. Later, as the sun sets beautifully over the distant mountains, the scene changes. The group is now safely traveling in their large, modified bus along a precarious mountain road. While driving, the young man notes that the moon is already beginning to rise. He feels a sense of urgency, knowing the danger increases after dark, and resolves to get off the mountain fast. His thoughts then drift to Gucheng's crew, and he wonders if they made it back to the steel mill. Just then, his rescued companion lets out a faint groan in her sleep, her face looking flushed. Concerned, he reaches over with his gloved hand to check her temperature. He is alarmed when he feels how hot her forehead is against his hand. The hero worries, knowing that a fever is the first symptom of zombie infection. As he pulls his hand back, his eyes catch a strange mark on her shoulder. He leans in closer to inspect the mark, trying to understand what it is. He recognizes the distinct shape of a zombie bite mark on her skin. Upon closer inspection, he notes that the bite mark on her shoulder does not look fresh. A sudden realization begins to dawn on him as his expression becomes serious. Meanwhile, back at their base, two girls stand watch, worried that the others have not returned by nightfall. One girl reassures the other, confident that with Chef Ga leading them, they are safe from any zombies. Just then, she excitedly points to a pair of headlights approaching in the distance. A single, rugged vehicle pulls up to the barricaded entrance of their fortified base. A young man with blonde hair and a red headband casually waves from the driver's window. The girls on the wall grow concerned, questioning why only one car returned and where the others are. The blonde man shouts that they encountered a mutant, and Gao Jialiang drove off the mountain with Miss Bei. Hearing that their leader is injured, one of the girls immediately turns to open the gate, but her friend stops her, recalling their leader's strict orders not to open the gate without seeing her first. From the wall, they ask to see their injured leader to confirm she is all right. The blonde man and the woman beside him exchange a silent, tense glance. He grows frustrated, asking if they are questioning his honesty about the situation. The woman explains that their sister has lost a lot of blood and needs urgent medical attention. The girl on watch becomes even more suspicious, finding it strange that they will not let them see her. Her companion agrees, telling her to stay put while she goes to get reinforcements. Suddenly, a man with blue hair pops out of the car's roof, annoyed that they are not opening the gate. The girl on watch recognizes him as Haojan, and she tells her friend to sound the alarm. The villain smiles, pointing a rocket launcher at the gate. Without hesitation, the blue-haired villain fires the rocket launcher toward the base's entrance. A massive explosion erupts, shattering the heavy gate and sending debris flying everywhere. The two girls on watch are caught in the blast, screaming as they are thrown from the wall. Other members of the base react to the explosion, running in alarm toward the source of the attack. The invaders then toss another explosive over the damaged wall, aiming for the interior. A second fiery blast occurs inside the compound, adding to the growing chaos and destruction. The attackers cheer loudly, celebrating that the main entrance has finally been blown open. They shout triumphantly, declaring that the entire steel mill now belongs to them. Amid the smoke and fire, the two defenders lie unconscious on the ground, defeated by the sudden assault. Back in the car, the blonde driver, Gu Chung, stares ahead with a somber and conflicted expression. His blue-haired companion notices his silence and coldly asks what he is looking at. The villain grins menacingly, pointing out that the traitor does not seem very happy with their victory. The woman beside him quickly covers, saying he is just overjoyed, and the driver nervously agrees. The leader then tells them it is time to go in and claim their prize, and Gu Chung reluctantly complies. However, a hand is seen pressing a hidden button on the car's dashboard. In the distance, the groans of zombies begin to fill the air, drawn by an unseen signal. A massive horde is now converging on the burning steel mill, attracted by the chaos. Inside, the invaders have rounded up the survivors, who struggle against their captors. The villain asks if everyone on his list has been found, and his subordinate confirms they are all there. He accuses Gu Chung of being a traitor who sold them out for his own gain. The villain smirks, mocking the captives for thinking their former leader could possibly return. The survivors look horrified, asking what he means and fearing the worst has happened to their leader. Enraged, a bearded man lunges toward Gu Chung, accusing him of conspiring against his own sister. Before he can land a blow, one of the invaders swiftly kicks the man to the ground. Gu Chung then coldly announces that their former leader is dead, declaring himself the new boss of the steel mill. He offers the captives a choice and kneel and call him boss, or be thrown out to face the dangers outside. The survivors exchange uncertain glances, their faces a mixture of fear and defiance. Just then, an elderly woman using a walking cane steps forward from the crowd of prisoners. She stands silently before the self-proclaimed leader, her gaze steady and unwavering. The traitor smiles, telling her that as the oldest, she should set an example for the others to follow. Two of the captives watch in terror, calling out to the woman with great concern for her safety. But instead of kneeling, the elderly woman bravely spits directly in the traitor's face. Furious at this act of defiance, the young man raises his fist, ready to strike her down. The woman smiles, saying she would rather feed herself to zombies than live under his rule. She then turns and begins to walk away, causing the surprised traitor to tell her to wait. Inspired by her courage, other captives declare that men like him are worse than zombies and decide to leave too. The traitor panics, shouting that they are all weak and will not survive a single day outside the walls. He desperately reveals he has an ability seed and promises he can protect them. Losing control, he yells that he is the boss now, and they have no choice but to obey him. As a show of force, the other invaders begin firing their weapons into the air. The invaders open fire into the crowd, causing the survivors to scream and scatter in terror. Bodies immediately begin to fall to the ground, struck down by the sudden and brutal attack. The scene descends into chaos as more people are hit, their escape attempt turning into a massacre. The traitor, Gu Chung, screams in horror, frantically telling his new allies to stop shooting. He argues that killing everyone will leave the base an empty shell, as they need people to make it grow. The blue-haired villain grabs him, coldly stating that he and his brothers are all the people they need. He then leans in close, asking with a menacing grin if the traitor wants to join the dead. Terrified, Gu Chung quickly backs down, and the villain expresses his relief with a smirk. The villain then orders the traitor to do as he was told and kneel before him as the new boss. Meanwhile, the remaining survivors see their chance and make a desperate run towards the garage. A younger woman helps the elderly lady, urging her to hang on, while the older woman insists she is fine. Another man carries his injured friend, reminding him of a promise they made to go fishing together. As they run, one of the invaders suddenly grabs a young woman from the group, pulling her back. Her friends scream out her name in terror, watching helplessly as she is captured. The attacker holds her firmly, telling her not to worry about him and for the others to just run. He then brutally slams her to the ground, leaving her alone and vulnerable. Other invaders begin to surround the fallen girl, commenting on her appearance. The terrified young woman looks up at them, asking what they are doing. One of the men laughs, annoyed with the two girls who escaped him earlier. She looks around at the approaching figures in absolute despair. The invaders grab the young woman, who screams and struggles to break free from their grasp. Suddenly, one of the invaders is struck in the face with a heavy object, sending him stumbling back. He falls to the ground, knocked unconscious by the unexpected and powerful blow. The young man who threw the object charges forward, vowing to fight the invaders to the death. Seeing the chaos, other survivors join the fray, fueled by rage and a desire for revenge. A woman viciously attacks one of the invaders with a rod, determined to teach him a lesson. The captured girl watches in despair as her friends are caught up in the violent conflict. One of the survivors grabs an invader and slams him to the ground in a powerful takedown. The impact of the blow is immense, leaving the invader stunned and disoriented. The bearded man picks up a discarded rifle, declaring that he will no longer run from the fight. He proclaims that he will die defending the home his friends worked so hard to build. Inspired by his words, the remaining survivors raise their fists, ready to fight back together. The invaders, now on the defensive, call the survivors crazy and order their men to open fire. But just as the fighting escalates, an invader is suddenly attacked from behind by a zombie. The undead creature bites down hard, its glowing red eyes fixed on its terrified victim. Everyone stops in shock as they realize a massive horde of zombies has descended upon the steel mill. It is a full moon horde, a terrifyingly large and aggressive swarm of the undead. The invaders are quickly overwhelmed, getting swarmed and attacked from all sides by the zombies. One invader fights back, but he is no match for the sheer number of undead creatures. From above, the entire compound is seen being overrun as the invaders try to fend off the massive horde. The bearded man bravely stands his ground, telling the others to run while he holds off the horde. He fights valiantly, but is quickly overwhelmed by the sheer number of attacking zombies. A zombie bites down on his rifle, and he struggles to push it back, his face filled with terror. Just as he is about to be overpowered, a figure leaps through the air against the full moon. The cat-eared girl arrives in a blur of motion, delivering a powerful kick to a nearby zombie. She follows up with another swift kick, sending the undead creature flying with incredible force. At that moment, the group's modified bus comes crashing through the chaos. The massive vehicle plows through the horde, clearing a path through the undead. Inside, the hero looks out the window in shock, wondering why there are so many zombies. The surviving members of the base see him and call out his name with immense relief. Elsewhere, the villain loses his patience with the traitor and orders him to kneel. Gu Cheng protests, reminding the villain that he was the one who brought them in and has an ability seed. The villain responds by delivering a brutal kick, sending the traitor to his knees. Gu Cheng cries out in pain from the powerful and humiliating blow. The villain mocks him, saying an unawakened ability seed is useless, and that the cook was right about him. He calls the traitor a parasite who lived off his sister's strength, and the words clearly strike a nerve. The villain then steps on his head, telling him that if he wants to be on his team, he needs to know who is in charge. The traitor despairs, realizing that he is still just a subordinate after all his betrayal. As he kneels in defeat, a strange mark on his neck begins to glow faintly. Suddenly, the invaders start shouting in alarm as the zombie horde finally breaks through their lines. The invaders are completely swarmed by the zombie horde, unable to fight back against the overwhelming numbers. The blue-haired leader watches in horror as his forces are torn apart by the undead. He furiously questions his subordinates, who admit their flimsy wooden barricades were no match for the zombies. The villain roars in anger, berating them for underestimating the strength of the full moon horde. He orders them to bring out the explosives, hoping to blast their way through the sea of zombies. Suddenly, his men cry out in shock, their attention drawn to something behind their leader. The villain turns, his eyes widening in disbelief at what he sees. A sharp, red energy blade pierces through his chest, and he stammers in confusion. The blade is retracted, and he is thrown forward by the force of the blow. He collapses to the ground, coughing violently as he struggles to comprehend the sudden attack. Standing behind him is Yin Hong, her fingers now long, sharp claws glowing with red energy. The betrayed leader looks up at her in shock, unable to understand why she has turned on him. She mockingly reminds him of his own words, saying there can only be one boss in this place. Weakened and enraged, he can only curse at her for her treachery. The traitor, Gu Cheng, sees this and praises her, but she coldly calls him another moron. He then turns on the fallen villain, stomping on him and declaring himself the new boss. The woman tells him it is too dangerous, and they should hide until the horde subsides. But as he turns, her hand suddenly clamps down on his shoulder, delivering a powerful electric shock. With a smile, she asks if he really thought she had any feelings for him. She reveals that both men were nothing more than tools for her to use. With a smug look, the woman decides she will have to handle the rest of the situation by herself. She tells the two defeated men their only remaining value is to hold off the zombies for her. She then calmly walks away, leaving the traitor and the villain to their fate amidst the chaos. Left alone, the blonde man stands in disbelief, quietly questioning why this is happening. He breaks down, screaming why everyone abandons him and looks down on him, wondering what his sister had that he did not. As he laments his fate, the relentless zombie horde continues to swarm the steel mill. The injured blue-haired villain on the ground looks up. Seeing the approaching danger, he desperately calls out to the traitor, begging to be saved from the undead. The villain bargains for his life, offering tons of explosives if he is rescued from the horde. The traitor looks down at him, his expression hardening as he considers the desperate offer. The villain waits anxiously, his hope for survival hanging on the traitor's decision. With a tense look, the blonde man asks if he can be trusted not to lie again. The villain frantically promises his absolute loyalty and obedience if he is allowed to live. A sinister smile spreads across the traitor's face as a strange purple aura surrounds him. In a sudden move, he grabs the injured villain by the throat, his grip like iron. He then lifts the villain, using his body as a human shield against the approaching zombies. The villain struggles furiously, cursing the traitor for his cruel and unexpected betrayal. The blonde man coldly demands to know where the dynamite is, refusing to save him without the information. Suddenly, his hand begins to glow with an intense, fiery energy. The villain screams, turned to toast by the heat emanating from the traitor's hand. The traitor holds up the villain, whose body is now on fire, causing him to scream in agony. He looks at his own hand in astonishment, realizing he possesses a fire-type ability. A wide, triumphant smile spreads across his face as he understands his power has finally awakened. Terrified and in immense pain, the villain begs to be released, promising to tell him everything. But the newly empowered traitor looks down with a sinister grin, deciding he no longer needs him. He then unleashes his full power, engulfing the villain's head in an intense burst of flames. The inferno consumes the villain's entire body, his screams echoing through the chaotic scene. He stands over the smoldering corpse, the sole survivor of their failed alliance. Feeling invincible, he leaps into the air with fiery wings, charging directly at the zombie horde. He unleashes a massive wave of fire, incinerating a large group of zombies in a single devastating blast. The powerful explosion tears through the undead ranks, leaving nothing but ash in its wake. The traitor stands surrounded by the inferno, marveling at the destructive power he now commands. Looking at his flaming hands, he finally understands the true potential of an ability user. A quiet laugh escapes his lips, which quickly grows into a full-blown, manic cackle. He laughs uncontrollably, completely consumed by his newfound power and ambition. The youth vows that everyone who ever underestimated him will soon be made to regret it. Meanwhile, two of the villain's former subordinates are busy looting supplies from a nearby warehouse. They are thrilled with their massive haul, believing they have struck it rich this time. They plan to use the supplies and dynamite to start their own group. Suddenly, one of them is startled by a noise as a large, shadowy figure looms over the truck. One of the looters falls to the ground, his body lifeless after a sudden and fatal blow. His companion looks up in terror, recognizing the attacker as their former boss. The newly empowered youth stands on a rooftop, looking down at the bodies of those who defied him. He declares himself the new leader, warning that disobedience will be met with death under the blood-red moon. The looters, hidden in the warehouse, look out in fear, recognizing the powerful figure. On the other side of the compound, the hero is desperately trying to get the survivors onto the bus. People rush past him in a panic, crying out for help as the zombie horde closes in. The undead claw at the bus, trying to break through and get to the people inside. Two powerful blasts of blue energy send a pair of zombies flying, creating a brief opening. The energy projectiles neutralize the zombies, but more are quickly taking their place. Inside the bus, The hero grows frantic, realizing they are completely overwhelmed by the horde. The survivors are packed tightly, pushing and shoving as they complain about the lack of space. They argue and complain, showing no respect for each other, even in the face of certain doom. The hero's face is comically squished against the window as he is pushed from behind. He is then shoved out of the bus and sent flying by the panicked crowd. He lands hard on the ground, dazed and abandoned by the very people he was trying to save. A massive shadow looms over him, making him feel incredibly small and helpless. He screams in frustration at the insanity of his situation, running from the approaching zombies. Just then, a system notification appears, congratulating him for completing a hidden self-sacrifice mission. He is overjoyed to see a new weapon has been unlocked and eagerly chooses to use it immediately. He confirms his choice, eagerly shouting for the new weapon to be used right away. A ball of bright blue energy materializes in his hands, pulsing with power. But to his utter shock, the energy solidifies into a large, ordinary-looking woke. He stares at the woke in disbelief, angrily questioning if the system is joking with him. As a zombie lunges at him, he can only curse his bad luck, armed with a mere cooking utensil. Deciding he has no other choice, the young man steels his resolve for a fight. He raises the woke, preparing to face the oncoming zombie head-on with his new weapon. With a powerful swing, he brings the woke down, but it suddenly grows to a massive size. The gigantic woke slams down on the zombies, crushing them with its immense weight. He looks at the now enormous woke in amazement, realizing how incredibly light it still is. Determined to test its limits, he grips the handle and prepares for his next move. With a great heave, he begins to spin the massive woke, creating a powerful vortex. He spins faster and faster, generating a whirlwind that tears through the surrounding area. The powerful suction of the vortex pulls in nearby zombies, trapping them in its destructive force. A zombie is instantly torn to shreds by the swirling vortex of the spinning woke. Using all his strength, he performs a move called the Iron Arm Woke Flip. The move is so powerful that it completely disintegrates the zombies, leaving only fragments behind. A cute blue spirit appears, congratulating him and explaining the woke's hidden potential. He looks at his new weapon with a bright, childlike expression of pure joy and excitement. His cat-eared companion seems to be having too much fun. A new voice rings out, surprised that the hero and his companion were not buried alive in the tunnel collapse. The traitor Gyucheng appears, surrounded by a fiery aura, and condescendingly greets them as ants. The hero recognizes him instantly, confused by his sudden appearance and newfound power. He senses the strange energy emanating from the traitor and wonders what it could mean. The blonde man smirks, ready to show off the full extent of his awakened abilities. He mockingly calls the hero short-sighted, dismissing his powers as cheap and insignificant tricks. With a powerful roar, he unleashes his fire, summoning a magical-looking circle of flames. The hero quickly raises his woke, using it as a shield to block the incoming fiery attack. He is shocked by the intensity of the flames, realizing his opponent now wields fire powers. The survivors on the bus watch in horror, realizing that the traitor has awakened his abilities. They worry that the hero is now in grave danger, but another survivor reassures them. The hero turns to his companion, telling her to join the fight and take on their new opponent. She nods in agreement, her expression turning serious as she prepares for battle. Using the woke as a launch pad, the hero sends her flying towards the traitor like a projectile. The fiery blast from the traitor collides with the flying girl, creating a massive explosion. She absorbs the full force of the attack, her cat ears glowing as she is engulfed in flames. The attack is completely nullified, leaving the hero to watch as the remaining flames dissipate. He screams out her name in panic, watching as she is sent flying away from the impact. The traitor smirks, confident now that the fight is a simple one-on-one battle. The hero laments his companion's bad habit of biting things. The traitor launches another massive fire attack, telling the hero to prepare to die. A giant fireball hurtles towards the young man, but the hero remains calm, rolling up his sleeves as he prepares to face the attack. He holds the woke with a firm grip, his expression determined as he waits for the right moment. With perfect timing, he swings the wook like a baseball bat, hitting the fireball head-on. The traitor can only watch in complete disbelief, his confident smirk now gone. From the bus, the survivors recognize his posture, exclaiming that it is a baseball batting stance.